I'm about to ruin my best friend's life, and I don't feel remorse. My soon-to-be ex-best friend and I have been friends since middle school. We know everything about each other. Our families are basically one big family now. You get the idea. Like I said, we tell each other everything. But recently, she came to me telling me that she's been having an affair for about 4 months with her superior at her new job. She started about a year ago. She told me, not out of guilt, but to brag about the dream vacation she's going to go on with her affair partner, disguised as a work trip. She asked me to cover for her if her husband asks if we've been in contact, because she's planning on going black for that week so he would have no way of finding out. She's planning on going what? Side note, we've both known her husband since high school. They are high school lovers, so they've been together for almost 15 years. Her husband is one of the most honest, hard-working, and genuine people that I know. He, of course, took everything she said about working late and the business trip at face value because he trusts her more than he trusts himself. I told her that I would not be covering for her and to get out of my house because I couldn't even look at her right now. Later, I told my husband everything that happened, and he was just as shocked and disgusted. Her husband is basically his best friend now, so he, of course, has a lot of loyalty to him as well. My husband pointed out something that I didn't even think of. Our security camera. It caught everything. We plan on going to her husband tonight with the proof. It'll be up to him to do what he wishes with it, but he deserves to know. Secondly, we're taking this to her job. As far as I know, fraternization of any kind is prohibited at her workplace. She was also promoted once by this same supervisor, so this could be seen as favoritism. Our guess is that they will both be fired. Finally, I'm going to send a snippet of her admitting the affair to all of her family, including mine. As I said, our families are very intertwined, so I will easily be able to contact the majority of her family. I'm not going to give her a chance to spin this against me or her husband. Some may think this is harsh, but I wholeheartedly disagree with what she's doing. Small update. Everyone involved. Alyssa is best friend. Noah is my BFF's husband. I decided to take the advice of a few people and to reach out to Alyssa before I went to her husband. I recorded the conversation and let her know that it was for my safety. She still seemed extremely nonchalant about the whole thing. I told her that I was worried for her, and even for her, this was very out of character behavior. Long story short, she's felt very weak and unbalanced in her and Noah's marriage. The hell is that supposed to mean? For context, Noah went to a trade school and makes very good money, while up until her promotion, Alyssa had made slightly more than minimum wage. She has recently been reading up on some anti-traditional values, and the women in those forums attacked her for making less than her husband. She then explained that she noticed her supervisor was trying to flirt with her, and her internet friends told her to run with it and use him to get higher up. She of course did, but admitted that she'd become emotionally attached to him as well. All in all, she admitted she doesn't really regret the affair because it helped with her career and she found love. I told her she had the option to tell Noah the truth before me, but hubby and I were coming over tonight with the video of her admitting the affair, so she wouldn't be able to sway it in her favor. Again, she very nonchalantly said, okay, and hung up on me. She's on the women's version of Andrew Tate Twitter. She's been watching women on TikTok make recipes from scratch. She's gonna make Coca-Cola from scratch. She's crazy, she's deluded, she's on drugs. Just continue what you've done so far, OP. Like, tell everyone, release the hounds on her. Get her husband the hell out of Dodge from this insane trad wife, whatever the hell kind of black pill content she is deciding to take right now, because she ain't right, that's for sure. She ain't right. That one, that's a bad apple right there, brother. She got soft hands. Zeldapin says, tell the husband. Then it's his decision on how scorched earth he wants to go. What you do to her affects him. Get her fired? You risk that he'll have to pay spousal support to her. Tell the family? Well, they're going to bombard him. No Pants Power Stance says, exactly. Tell the husband, but you can offer to go further scorched earth, but leave it to him. What if he wants to play it cool while he gets his affairs in order? Do they have kids? Maybe he wants to control info that gets filtered to them. And as said above, you could potentially hurt him in the divorce, should he choose to go that way. I can think of a bunch of other factors. Maybe he doesn't want his heart ripped out publicly. Maybe that'll just hurt him further. Leave that decision up to him. And Grapefruit Express adds, also, if she gets fired or loses her job before divorce, she may try to get more alimony from her husband. So I agree. Inform the husband and let him get his ducks in a row. She chose to cheat on her timeline. Let him proceed with a divorce on his timeline. Also, while she goes away on that trip, that would be a good time for her husband to meet with lawyers. And OP comes back with the first of 2 updates and says, apologize for not having time last night. We were obviously busy. The people involved, ex-bestie equals Alyssa, bestie's hub is Noah. I took a lot of people's advice and decided not to go nuclear. As many people said, at the end of the day, it's not my circus. The decision should be left up to the wronged party, and that is Noah. I also decided to reach out to Alyssa before telling Noah, and decided to give her a chance to confess to Noah herself. After I talked to her, I was legit thinking about reaching out to her parents about medical help because she was so unbothered and so non-remorseful about the affair that I thought she was having some sort of mental break or psychosis. Yeah, Alyssa's always been the kind to find loopholes or ways ahead, but cheating on your spouse of almost 2 decades for financial gain? It's not normal. And neither is finding buried rugs under trees. And neither is Anne Hathaway doing Princess Diaries 3, but I welcome it. If you didn't see my small update, the whole reason Alyssa started the affair was to get the promotion at work. It evolved into an emotional affair eventually though. She admitted that her new friends from some feminism forums and Facebook groups told her that she wasn't as valuable if she was making significantly less than her spouse. Something I learned that she's been more insecure about than she's been telling people. They also told her that using a man isn't cheating as long as there is no emotional attachment. She's just being a girl boss. Me when I'm delusional. Just girl bossing it, dude. I can't deal with that. What the fuck? She admitted that she couldn't separate her feelings from the intimate aspect and started going on regular dates and vacations, and eventually they started calling each other boyfriend and girlfriend. The affair partner knows she's married, but was told that they're on the verge of separation. They always are on the verge of separation. Oh, a tale as old as time. So my hubby and I arrived at Noah and Alyssa's with some booze and some dinner, and by the time we were there, Noah had already gone through a bottle of wine. Phew, Noah's wild, oh my god. Surprisingly, Alyssa did confess to Noah about the affair. He told us that it was extremely non-apologetic though. She sat him down and told him that she wasn't going on a business trip this week, she was going on a vacation with her boyfriend. Noah, being the clueless and loyal person he is, thought he meant to say husband and was so excited. Oh no, the golden retriever energy just to be stabbed in the heart. He's too good for this world. He asked if they were going to Italy like they planned for, and Alyssa just stared at him. She repeated, with my boyfriend. It took a few minutes, but it finally sunk in. He told us that it wasn't pretty after that, and said he embarrassingly got on his knees and begged her to fix everything. Oh Noah, I just want to hug you, man. Not like this. She yelled for a bit, but then just stonewalled him again. She was already packed to leave, and just left him there sobbing. She turned off her location, which both Noah and I were a part of her family on the app, and we have no idea where she went. We assumed she went to her affair partner's house because if she had gone home with 2 suitcases, her mother would have reached out to Noah immediately. She sees him as a son. We sat down with Noah and said that we had video and audio proof of Alyssa exposing and explaining the affair and that we'll send them to him in case he needs them. I explained to him that in a moment of blind rage, I was planning on going scorched earth and telling everyone, but once I calmed down and looked at this rationally, I realized that wasn't the right thing to do. The only person going full nuclear would hurt was him, because Alyssa obviously doesn't care anymore. As I suspected, the idea of reconciliation is still on his mind, but he doesn't see it happening. In order to reconcile, both parties must admit fault and want to reconcile. Alyssa clearly doesn't. We've gotten him in contact with a friend of my hubby who agrees to help him pro bono until the divorce shows results. I can tell he is still hesitant about going forward with divorce, but he knows he also can't force Alyssa to stay. As comments have suggested, This is where we bow out. We're obviously going to continue to support Noah, but this is not our situation to handle. It's his. If there's any future updates, I'll of course ask Noah first, but you'll be the second to know. Thanks for being so supportive and helpful. It made me realize that how Noah handles his life and his marriage is his responsibility, not mine. And edit to add, I want to clear up some questions from the last post that I didn't really answer in the update. What did Alyssa ever do to you that made you want to go so nuclear? Honestly, nothing in particular. Like I said, for the past few years, our friendship has been for convenience at its best. We've basically been friends because we know each other so well, and we have at least one friend. Alyssa has always had qualities that I don't agree with, but who doesn't? I think it was just the whole situation that made my blood boil, especially since Alyssa has always been disgusted by cheaters. She was the kind of person to cut dozens of people out of her life if it meant not supporting someone's infidelity. So for her to make a complete 180 and not even have guilt for it, it just grinds my gears. That's part of the reason that I think she's having some sort of mental breakdown. Not only is it hypocritical, it is extremely out of character, even for her. Are you in love with Noah? Of course not. Singing someone's praises and trying to portray that they're a genuine and good person doesn't automatically mean that you want to sleep with them. Our relationship has been nothing more than platonic for the entire time that I've known him because he loved Alyssa and I loved their happiness. I love my husband and literally only ever saw Noah like a brother. Logic, people. Lost Wind Talker says, I hope he has some self-respect and dignity and goes through with the divorce. If he decides to inform their employer, tell him to do it after the divorce. OP replies, as much as I love the guy, he basically worships the ground Alyssa walks on. If she came through the door right now and said sorry, even with no remorse behind it, I'm 99% sure he'd pretend the last 4 months were a fever dream. Lost Wind Talker replies, that mentality alone is why she is walking all over him. She knows he will stay put. Dude is setting himself up for a lifetime of heartache. Time heals all wounds, unless you keep picking at the scab. That's a banger. That is a banger right there. I get where OP's coming from with this one, but I also think that she's just having a mental breakdown, and even after the mental breakdown resolves, I don't think things are going to go back to the way they are. I would hope she's so embarrassed that she doesn't show her face to him again or try to repair that marriage. And now to the latest update, which says, well, I didn't expect to be back so soon, but the last week has been basically a speed run of terrible events. This will probably be my last update, so feel free to consider this the conclusion of the events. Everything bad that could have happened, happened. The past 2 days specifically have been absolutely horrible. Sorry if this is all over the place. I'm still all over the place. So I don't know if it was the day she left or the day after, but Alyssa and affair partner went on their vacation. The only reason I know is because she posted pictures all over social media of her and affair partner, and she had absolutely no shame. It was very clear that even if she wasn't divorced, this was her new boyfriend, which of course notified her family of the issues. Noah's phone was blowing up with apologies, accusations, everything you could think of. But Noah, being the people pleaser that he is, decided to tell her family they were on a mutual break instead of telling everybody she cheated and that was the affair partner. Oh, bless his soul. He's too good for this earth. Or too stupid, I don't know. I'm gonna say he's good. Alyssa's mum, fortunately, didn't believe him and came to me. I didn't hold back. I told her that she's been cheating on Noah for months, and that she's recently bragged to me about her sugar daddy affair partner, and that's the only reason she's come clean to Noah. Alyssa's mum then dropped a bomb on me that I didn't even know. Alyssa is a serial cheater. Her mum said in high school, Alyssa would bring boys home under the guise of school projects or sports-related things, but she caught Alyssa kissing 2 different boys. Keep in mind, she was dating Noah all this time. She said she didn't think much of it and just chalked it up to being a crazy hormonal teenager. She also said she never expected her to marry her high school boyfriend, and by the time they were married, she figured Alyssa had stopped doing all of this stuff. Neither her nor I have any idea if she's done anything like that since high school through to the present, but I'm not interested in digging further into it. This just explains why Alyssa was just so nonchalant about cheating, because apparently she's just always done it. I'm guessing her girl boss friends awoke something inside her, and she remembered how easily and nonchalantly she would cheat, and it inspired her to just do it again? I don't know. I'll be honest, I kinda yelled at her mother, something that I'm not proud of. Like I've said in previous posts, Alyssa's mum is basically my mum, so formalities and everything aren't something that I think about when I talk to her. So I freaked out and told her that she set Noah up for this kind of life when he could have found someone 10 times better. She took it like a champ and just let me vent until I was calm again. I apologized for yelling, but calmly said that you and I both know that Noah deserved better. You should have said something before he got married to her. She agreed, but said that it's too late now to focus on that, and that the real issue at this time was supporting Noah. I told her that if she wanted to support Noah, she could have told him that his fiancée was a cheater 10 years ago, and then hung up on her. I've since talked to her, we're fine, but I was just so mad at her in the moment. Next thing that happened was the photos got back to a colleague, and both of them were out of a job before their vacation was even over. I assumed their workplace was extremely upset and did consider Alyssa getting the promotion favoritism, and they were both let go. Noah told me there was at least 3 HR complaints about them, so it was a no-brainer. And of course, the beautiful relationship Alyssa and her affair partner had turned sour as soon as he learned that he was let go from his 6-figure job because of her. He was so pissed. He even cancelled Alyssa's plane ticket home out of spite and planned to leave her stranded there. This is where all of you will be disappointed, and so am I, but Noah immediately forgave her, bought her a ticket, and moved her back in. She told him this was just a huge mistake, and seeing how her affair partner treated her made her realize what she could have lost. Noah, you silly man, I want to slap you upside the head. What are you doing? It's obviously all bullshit to me and Hubby, but you already know that Noah ate that shit up. He's told us that he's urging her to go to couples counseling, but of course, it's not an ultimatum, so basically, she just got to have her cake and eat it with no consequences. We told Noah previously and reminded him that if he decided to take Alyssa back, we would be going at the very least low contact. We kept to our word and have completely blocked Alyssa and have Noah unblocked, but don't plan to engage in small talk to invitations to stuff. We refuse to be like him and just act like this never happened, because that's not normal. He understood, but told us that he has to stand by the vows he made to his wife, which we both understand to an extent and wished him well. So yep, Alyssa got to sleep with another man, go on a nice vacation, lose her job, and still gets a bed and a husband to come home to. All's well that ends well? I don't even know how to feel about this. Like, if they want to live their effed up, broken marriage life, that's their choice. I'm not even mad anymore. I'm just drained. I'm almost glad that it's over now because I don't know if I could deal with this for months on end. I knew this was going to happen eventually. It's just who Noah is, but it feels just as idiotic as it sounds. I don't know, I'm just rambling at this point. I'm glad we decided to step back because honestly, both of them have very clear psychological issues that need to be addressed with a professional, but neither of them will ever do that. I'd rather be rid of people like this. Sorry if I'm being blunt or mean, but at the end of the day, both of them have issues that I didn't sign up to deal with. I don't need this kind of stress while Hubby and I are trying for kids. So yeah, I guess this is it. Yup. UTZ says, I feel for Noah. He'll always be a sucker for her, and she'll always get away with anything. No consequences for anything. Marriage counseling is not an ultimatum. Sigh. Unbelievable. Maybe one day he'll catch her with another guy in their own bed, and he'll snap out of it. Let's be real, he'll join in. You did the right thing the way you handled it and distance yourself right now. Don't turn your back on Noah though. He's going to need people. Not So Religious Now says, I feel no sympathy for Noah. He needs to find his balls from wherever she hid them because she will cheat on him again and again, and he will always stupidly take her back. You were completely justified staying away from that mess. And Plastic Bottle finishes with, Noah's blind loyalty is sad. He deserves better, but he's choosing misery. My friend, misery enjoys company though. All around sad situation for Noah. Will he ever grow a spine in this situation? Who knows? But as you said, OP, it's his choice, it's his life, and it's his marriage. If he wants to forever be a doormat whose wife will continue cheating on him with a history of cheating, so it's guaranteed, he can be that guy if you want. I understand that you want to leave the door open for him as well, if he ever comes to his senses. But genuinely, from the vibes he's given me from your description, it doesn't sound like he will. If it were me in this situation, yes, I'd extend the olive branch and be like, if you ever need it, it's here, brother. I'm here for you. But again, I doubt you'll ever need to use it. And I do recommend you just slowly distance yourself from those two and find new friends. As always, thanks for the story, I appreciate it. I'd love to know what everyone else has to think about this one. I mean, I'm passionate in saying this, but I feel like maybe I have the wrong read of the story and you can correct me in the comments. With that said, let's move on to the next story. This one's posted on the Am I the Arsehole subreddit by user H5Ray, titled, Am I the Arsehole for calling my niece my baby? I, 23 female, recently visited home for my niece's 7th birthday party. I live about an hour away from my hometown for college, and I'm currently pursuing my master's before I go on to law school. This is all to say, I see my family maybe once or twice a year due to classes and me working 2 jobs. My niece's birthday was 2 weekends ago, and she and I are quite close. I spent a lot of time babysitting her when I was younger and still at home because my brother and sister-in-law both worked jobs. My classes were all online due to COVID, so it was natural for me to become the instinctive babysitter. I was happy to do so because I love my niece and wanted to lighten the load of my brother and sister-in-law's emotional and physical loads. My family, sister-in-law and brother included, knew that I would be attending my niece's birthday party as a surprise. When she saw me, she ran up to me and shrieked happily. I wrapped her up in a big hug and said, "Hi, my baby," before giving her a smooch. I sent her off afterwards to mingle with her guests like a proper host. I then sat with my own family and caught up with them. Later, my sister-in-law seemed distant and annoyed with me. Before presents, she pulled me aside and asked me not to call my niece my baby again because she found it offensive. I profusely apologized as soon as she said so and promised I wouldn't do it again. I spent the rest of the party calling her sweetie or just by her name. I'm an extremely affectionate person. I call my niece and nephew an array of terms of endearment, both including my baby. I've called both of them this occasionally before around family, and no one said anything. To be honest, sweetie/sweetheart is more common for me, but this isn't the first time. I never say stuff like, "You're my baby," "This is my baby," etc. I usually word it like, "Of course my baby," "Hi my baby," "Yes my baby," etc. My sister-in-law is still mad at me, and later called me a horrible aunt in person for calling my niece my baby. I tried explaining that it was just a term of endearment and saying that I meant no harm, but she seemingly does not care and keeps calling me horrible. It's breaking my heart because I've tried apologizing and making it up, but my sister-in-law swears that I'm out to get her. I don't know why she thinks this. I've done nothing but look after her and my niece. I just wish that she would listen to me instead of icing me out. Am I the asshole for calling my niece my baby as a term of endearment? Edit. While I understand this might not be a common term for some families, I'm not the only one who refers to my niece like this. This is the first time that it's been brought up. It was also only said to me, not anyone else who calls my niece this on occasion, and I immediately adhered to my sister-in-law's requests, but she's still continuing to berate me and refuse my apologies. I'm really at a loss here with what to do going forward. A commenter says, "Okay, you used a term of endearment for your niece, her mother didn't like it, asked you to stop, and you apologized and stopped. Now she's icing you out, which you cannot do anything about further because again, you've apologized and corrected your actions. Not the asshole for this isolated incident, but do you have a pattern of being overly fond/surpassing or ignoring boundaries and recycling disliked behavior? If not, I really don't see the problem here." OP replies, "Thank you so much for your thoughts. I do not have a pattern of ignoring boundaries whatsoever. Sounds like something someone with a pattern of ignoring boundaries would say. Just kidding. I'm kind of the most communicative one of the family. I 100% understood my sister-in-law was setting a boundary when she pulled me aside and knew to respect it because at the end of the day, she's the parent, not me. This has never happened with us before, to be honest, which is making it so much more disorienting, you know? Also, me and my younger siblings are much closer in age than me and my older brother, so this definitely has not stemmed out of our sibling dynamic at least. She's not as close with her siblings and has distant parents, so maybe the general involvement of my family overall has affected her. This is just speculation on my behalf though, because she hasn't said any of that to me. Another commenter says, "You say your niece is 7 and you are 23. So how long has it been since you have gone off to college, and how much time did you spend together? I'm not saying you've done anything wrong because you haven't. When called out, you apologized and corrected. What I am suggesting is that if you babysat regularly for long periods of time, there's a chance that your niece has been missing you more now that you've gone than she missed your sister-in-law, her mother, and there could have been a chance that you saying my baby triggered some jealousy and resentment from your sister-in-law. Like how sometimes kids are closer to their nannies than their workaholic parents who don't even know their favorite food. I chose an extreme example to make the explanation easier, if it helps." OP replies, "So I've been away for coming up on 3 years now. When my niece was an infant, my sister-in-law and brother-in-law actually lived with us for a little over a year, and I babysat her almost daily while they worked. When they moved out, I saw her about once or twice every weekend because my brother and sister-in-law would visit then. I still talk to my family/niece about once a week, and I do have time where I talk to just my niece on FaceTime because she takes my brother and sister-in-law's phone to chat with me. I'm definitely thinking I struck a nerve that I didn't know was there, and I'm really just hoping that with time, she'll be willing to talk to me about whatever is going on." Another commenter says, "Not the asshole. You are saying this because she's a child that you love. I had friends and family say this about my kids, and I love it, but I can get if your sister-in-law didn't dig it. Not everyone feels the same as me. She voiced her concerns and you respected it. You apologized, and it seems to me that she's maybe jealous of the special relationship that the two of you have. My kids adore their aunties, and sometimes treat them nicer than they do me. I get it, because I was the same way as a kid, and I see it as how lucky we are to have a village. Some mamas aren't like that. I would just shrug it off and not bring it up if you can, and keep on loving your sweet niece and using other terms of affection for her." OP replies, "Thank you. I've been kind of freaking out about my relationship with my niece because it's always been hard for her over the past 3 years, with me being inaccessible due to distance while I'm at school. I'm hoping that my sister-in-law will either ignore it or be open to have an open discussion with me closer to the holidays when I'm planning on visiting again, so there's no bad blood or whatever. She's not super close with her family, and she and I are the only girls in both of our families which bonded us in the first place, so I'm hoping that we can get back to that, despite this bump in the road." And a final commenter says, "My sister-in-law refers to my baby as hers all the time. She tells people, who don't know us, that she's her baby, and it makes me really uncomfortable, and I don't like it. I can understand why she's bothered by this. However, this does seem like a completely different situation, and once you were asked to stop, you apologized and respected her wishes. So I'm gonna say not the asshole." OP replies, "I'm genuinely so sorry that your sister-in-law has done this. I was a sociology major in my undergrad, so I literally studied the impact of social situations such as this one, and I think I've done my very best to support and uplift my sister-in-law's role as a mother to my nibblings. I understood immediately when she told me to back off, which is why I did, and it honestly kind of broke my heart to think that I might have made her doubt herself. I want so badly for her to speak with me so that she can understand that I never had this intent to possibly make her feel the way that your sister-in-law makes you feel. I'm thinking of you and hoping that your sister-in-law backs off because this is insane behavior. I really do appreciate your feedback with your history in situations similar to mine." I'm on the not the asshole train for this one too, OP. It sounds like she's just being a protective mama bear. We can always respect that. Like, I get it, but I feel as though the onus is on her to kind of pull you aside instead of yelling at you in public like that. And her to be like, hey, look, I'm a bit jealous of your relationship with my daughter. I don't want to offend you, but right now, I would just love it if you would stop saying my baby. I understand that my feelings are irrational, but it's just triggering me right now, and I'd appreciate it if you gave me more time to feel as though I was more connected to my daughter. I feel as though that would be a nice, rational response, but we don't often get rhyme and reason on the Am I the Arsehole subreddit, and that's why I love it so much. OP comes back with an update that says, "My sister-in-law and I have made up." I decided to send her a heartfelt text explaining that I was still sorry and sorta upset over us being at odds over something I said. We ended up texting back and forth and then FaceTiming. So sister-in-law told me that she's realized over the past 2 years how much of my niece's infancy that she missed out on. She's been able to be a lot more present with my little nephew than she could be with my niece. And she admitted that she felt jealous that I got to basically be a third parent to my niece. I watched my niece basically 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. 5 days a week for a long time when she was just a baby, and my sister-in-law had been feeling guilty that she had to work so much and that I had been the one looking after my niece so much. I told her vehemently that I did not want to overstep or to be seen as anything other than an aunt because she's a great mom, and I respect her much more than that. She told me that she knew that, but that the day of the party had just been so long, and with her guilt, she just snapped at me. I also did apologize again for calling my niece my baby, and sister-in-law said she didn't want to hear it because it was out of the blue and I had no idea how she was feeling. I waved her off and told her I still felt sorry, and said I would be refraining from that nickname in the future because I have plenty of other ways to dote on my niece. We were both teary and sappy, and we made plans to have a girls' day, just me and her when I visit around the holidays. Thank you everyone who gave me advice and perspective. And thank you for sharing this beautiful update with us, OP. That was amazingly done. I wish more people had the ability to communicate like you do and resolve situations. I'm glad she was able to break through whatever was holding her back from having this conversation with you previously during the party, and I hope you guys have a fantastic girls' day on that holiday. That sounds amazing. And with that done, I'd love to know what you guys think of in the comments down below. How are you feeling about this one? Am I the asshole for refusing to pay for my brother's wedding after he invited my ex? So here's the situation. My 28 male, younger brother, 25 male, is getting married soon, and I was excited for him until I found out he decided to invite my ex-girlfriend, 27 female, to the wedding. Now, let me give you some background. We broke up over a year ago, and it was pretty rough. She cheated on me with his best friend, and it took me months to get over that betrayal. When I found out she was invited, I was furious and reached out to my brother to express my feelings. I told him that I would not attend if she was there, but instead of being understanding, he got defensive and accused me of ruining his big day. He insisted he wanted her there because they've become friends since the breakup and that she has changed. I told him that if I'm not welcome, then I won't be attending, and therefore, I won't be covering my share of the wedding expenses, which I had already agreed to pay before the invitation fiasco. My family is pulling me in every direction, saying I'm petty and ruining my brother's wedding for no reason. They're calling me an asshole for not supporting my brother and for potentially putting a financial strain on his wedding plans. Some even suggested that I should just suck it up and attend for the sake of the family. I've now decided that I'm not paying for a single thing, and that if he wants to have a wedding with my ex as a guest of honor, it's on him to cover the costs. Am I the asshole for standing my ground and refusing to fund my brother's wedding under these circumstances? Additional information from OP. Just to clarify, I'm not upset about the wedding itself, but about the fact he invited someone who hurt me deeply. I feel like my feelings don't matter to him, and frankly, I'm tired of being the one expected to just roll over. In that case, OP, then no, you're not the asshole. Everyone else just doesn't want to shoulder the cost of this wedding, they want it to be on you. But that also raises the question for me, why are you paying for it? Usually it's parents bankrolling weddings like this and not the siblings. So my question is, why did you offer to do it in the first place? He's well aware of your feelings about your ex and how inviting your ex to this wedding and giving them such an honorific role would affect you, and yet they expect you, as you say, to just roll over. I don't blame you for being tired, and your brother is wrong for doing that to you, so not the asshole for pulling your money out. A commenter says, not the asshole. Your brother is being incredibly insensitive by inviting your ex, especially after she cheated on you with his best friend. It's your right to decline attending and not contribute financially if it makes you uncomfortable. And OP says, yes, I think that he's insensitive, yet I still get the blame from my family. Another commenter says, not the asshole. This woman betrayed and hurt you, and now your brother is friends with her and she's changed? Don't pay, don't go. Hold strong and give your brother a "I told you so" when she cheats on his best friend. Your brother is showing you how important you are to him. Believe him. And OP says, thank you for your input. This "I told you so" will be the most satisfying one so far in my life. Another commenter says, not the asshole. But what's the deal with all these people paying for siblings' weddings? When did that become a thing? OP says, honestly, I don't know why my brother and his family expected me to pay for the wedding. They also have quite high standards for a wedding, so it's expected to cost about $25,000. OP on why his unemployed brother is getting married. Why he's getting married in his current situation is beyond my understanding at this point. And is OP going to fund the whole wedding? Not anymore. I'm gonna go on a cruise instead. OP then comes back with an update and says, okay, so I wanted to update everyone because things have escalated, and it's even crazier than I expected. After my last post, I thought maybe my family would come around to my way of thinking, but instead, they absolutely lost it. My brother called me crying, saying I'm ruining his happiness, and my parents have taken his side 100%. In a fit of rage, I ended up posting screenshots of our conversations in our family group chat. You know, the ones where he called me selfish and petty. Yeah, I regret that decision, but it felt like a let's air this dirty laundry moment. My extended family saw the texts, and now half of them think I'm justified, while the other half is calling me the family villain. To add fuel to the fire, my ex-girlfriend reached out to me directly. She said that it's unfair that I'm acting like she's some monster when I should just be mature about the situation. I told her she would always be a reminder of my brother's betrayal and that I won't ever see her in a positive light. She then had the audacity to say that my brother might reconsider his whole wedding if I'm not there. I'm not seeing the problem here, actually. Now my parents want us to have a family meeting to discuss this drama like we're some sort of reality TV show. This belongs on 90 Day Fiancé. I told them I'm not showing up if it's just gonna be him whining while my ex is basking in it all. Call me dramatic, but this whole mess has made me feel like I'm in an episode of a soap opera. So now I'm considering throwing some cash into the mix for an epic weekend getaway instead of funding his wedding. His wedding is becoming about my ex and not about him. Honestly, I feel justified in saying no. I'm still standing my ground, but part of me is genuinely worried this might tear apart my family. Additional information from OP. Just to clarify, I'm not trying to ruin my brother's happiness. It feels like everyone is more concerned about my ex's feelings than mine. I'm genuinely confused about why my life choices are being judged when his choices directly impact me. I made reservations for a cruise and will be away during all of the drama. Honestly, I think it's the best way to escape this mess. OP on what he plans to do with the money now. Says, thank you. I'm really excited to leave the drama behind. I'm cruising to the Great Barrier Reef in Australia, and I heard the diving and snorkeling there are incredible. The vibrant coral reefs and marine life look absolutely stunning. Does the fiancé know about his brother's history and the cheating incident? OP says, the fiancé doesn't know yet. I haven't said anything to her because I think it's up to my brother to decide how and when he wants to reveal his history to her. Maybe he wants to wait until after he marries her. Captain Delicious Pants says, if I was OP's potential sister-in-law, I'd be pissed at the brother for fumbling the bag over a random girl who cheated on OP. He has to be banging her or something for it to be worth all this drama. Fries with Shake Booty says, I saw this posted elsewhere, and yes, bro had a turn with the ex. OP needs to let his future sister-in-law know. Grouchy says, I saw the original comment a week ago or so, but I found it by looking through the OP's comments, but seeing as though the account is gone and there's 1.6 thousand comments, it's difficult to find it again. I do remember that it wasn't a big update or extra info comment, it was literally one line like, yes, bro as well, or something. Not even any detail in the comment to make sense on its own. That's how I found out. The lack of info caught my attention back then. I repeat, this is definitely an episode that belongs in 90 Day Fiancé or before the 90 days. The shit I've seen on that TV show, it blows these situations out of the water. Thank God you're staying out of this drama, OP, because getting a response from you is exactly what your ex is looking for in this situation. Do not give it to them, and just let your ex completely derail your brother's life, as him going along with it is what he deserves at this point. Have a great time at the Great Barrier Reef, by the way. I'd love to know what you guys think of this one down in the comments below too. And with that said, let's get to the next story. Our next one is by a throwaway account, titled, "Should I sue my girlfriend for selling my stuff?" We're both in our early 20s and have been together for 3 years. It's been 2 months since we moved in together. When I was a teenager, I was obsessed with collecting Pokemon cards. I had over 5,000 cards in my collection. A lot of them are very crappy, worth half a cent to $3, but some are worth up to $250. Personally, I never intended to sell them, or at least not in the near future. My girlfriend gave away my entire collection to her cousin 1 month ago without asking me, since he asked her if he could have them when he visited us. She gave them away, believing that since I'm an adult now that I won't need them. As I was cleaning my room a few hours ago, I realized my collection box was missing, and I went crazy looking for it. An hour later, she came home after running some errands and told me what she did. I told her to get all of them back, and she's refused because it would be humiliating for her. What should I do? I have a recording of her confessing to it, so I can easily get compensated for it in court, but I'm assuming that will effectively end the relationship. Though I love her a lot, I believe I would rather have my cards. Truer words were never said. It doesn't seem right to sue her for this, but I don't know how I can recover my collection. Is there a less aggressive way to handle this? Please let me know. Advice? Not really, OP. I don't think that there is. I think you gotta take her to small claims court if she doesn't want to get the cards back. But if I'm gonna headcanon this situation, find who the cousins are and get in contact with that family and ask for them back. This relationship seems over no matter how you look at the situation. Like, she doesn't want to get humiliated for stealing from you, basically. At this point, I give you free rein to do whatever you want. Besides abuse. Abuse would make you an asshole. OP says, edit, she gave them all away for $10. Hugtao says, do you have an estimate for the total value? And OP says, $5,000 to $5,500 in today's value. Yugen says, I'd agree this is a deal breaker. What an ass. She's more concerned with her ego than fixing her mistake. Yes, I saw he refused, but she didn't try hard enough. Has she even apologized? Discombobulated says, I bet she kept the $10 too. As for the cousin, what an asshole. Obviously it runs in the family. OP, I guess you have to go over and explain the collection wasn't hers to give or sell. Just how snotty you have to get depends on what they do about it, I guess. Also, most likely you'll have to give that snotty kid $10. Edited to say that you'll probably have to take your girlfriend to small claims court since she doesn't want to embarrass herself. Please update with the decision you made. OP says, defo contacting the police because apparently I'm a man-child with ego problems who just wants to humiliate his girlfriend in front of her family members. Like what? OP also added, the small claims court can only award me up to $1,000, equivalent to my currency, which is not the monetary value of the cards. There is also sentimental value, which is worth way more. My sister is a lawyer, and she said since the monetary value is huge, the police will get involved and treat it as a serious matter. I have given her time to think about it, but if she doesn't do anything, then I'll go and file an FIR against her and the cousin since I won't have any other option at that point. OP then comes back with an update and says, holy shit, I never thought that this is how 2021 would end. A lot has happened since my first post, and first, thank you for the support, some tips, and good luck. I'll start by clearing some assumptions. In my original post, I said, though I love her a lot, I believe I would rather have my cards. This statement alone pissed some of you off, so let me elaborate on that. My first ever 300 cards were from my father's collection. He died of hepatitis C. He was quite into gaming. My mum kept his cards for years and gave them to me when I was in my early teens, and I got hooked. I grew the collection to 5,000 cards. There was immense sentimental value attached to those cards. After my girlfriend refused to talk to the cousin, refusing to give me the cards when I asked, his parents being jerks to me, I took the legal route, filed an FIR. Initially, I had trouble since the police didn't care about some cards, but my sister, who is a lawyer, she's about to become a lawyer, told the police the estimated value, and they got interested. We told the police the $5,000 value of the cards. It took some time, but the police eventually confiscated the cards and got them appraised by a company. They came back with a value of approximately $6,000. I told the police the missing cards were also of substantial value since they were very old. Son of a bitch sold the one my father left behind. Cousin told us who he sold to, and those people gave the cards back with no problems. Right now, the police have all the cards. The cousin who I knew had his eyes on my cards threw my girlfriend under the bus. I know this because he wanted to buy those from me in the past, but I refused. He told the police that he bought those in good faith. My girlfriend also tried lying to the police, but since I recorded her, she got into even more trouble. She got charged with grand larceny and also fined for lying to the police. I should get the cards by the end of this month or by early January. The police just said they need to finalize and file some reports, and then I can have them. As for proof of all of this, I had the cards photographed front and back, along with some receipts. Some of you are also saying that I should take this to small claims court. This amount is too big for that, at least where I'm from. Edit. I forgot to add, my sister wants to sue all of them for emotional distress, but I don't know about that. Any advice on that? Nick P says, probably time to quit referring to her as your girlfriend. OP says, shit, I'm so used to it I didn't even realize. Impressive Cricket says, quote, the cousin got some ass whooping in front of me. Do elaborate, please. OP says, when the police went to confiscate the cards, my sister and I were with them. They got them, left, and we just stood there, and his mother slapped the shit out of him. I don't condone violence, but I won't say I feel bad for him. Man Bear Pig is Real says, wait, I thought they were being jerks to you. Why was she upset with him? OP says, they were jerks to me in the start when the police weren't involved. I asked them first nicely, they were jerks, and then I went to the police. So when the police went and confiscated the cards, that was when the mum slapped her kid. Yes Girl user Reddit says, do you think that it's because she didn't believe her kid could do such a thing and she's slapping him because it got proven? Or is she slapping him for making the parents have to deal with the law? OP says, I honestly think it's because the police came to their house with their sirens on and all the neighbors came out, so the embarrassment would have been unreal and she was probably taking that anger out on him. OK Replacement asks, what did your girlfriend have to say about all of this? Has she apologized? Has the cousin received any sanctions? How long will your girlfriend spend in jail? Has anyone in her family said something? And will you keep updating? OP says, she honestly said a lot of stuff like how I'm prioritizing cards over a human, I'm choosing things over my girlfriend, so I'm objectifying her, which makes me a misogynist, and that she hopes I never have sex or get a partner, and that I die miserably. She said all kinds of wild stuff, and no, hasn't apologized. The cousin got nothing. He and his parents lied, and my sister said not to say anything since we were getting what we wanted, which is the cards. I don't know what else to update. I should get my cards soon. Icy Cockroach says, quote, though I love her a lot, I believe I would rather have my cards. This statement alone pissed some of you off. I hate that the OP needed to justify this. Latent says, agreed. Who knows what she would have decided for OP next? How can you feel safe with someone who you can't trust, who prioritizes themselves regardless of the pain they cause, and believes OP's sentimental attachments are irrelevant? People only got mad because they think that cards are stupid. Remember that chick that tossed her boyfriend's mother's ashes into a river? Nobody supported that crazy chick. The cards aren't ashes, but they can have an even stronger emotional attachment to them, as they're something that you can interact with and something that represents a passion his father had. Given a choice, I'd much rather have something like that than ashes. Yeah, it's insane that his girlfriend said he prioritized cards over a human, but yet she prioritized the cards over him for her cousin. That's some insane projection and manipulation going on right there. Glad that OP had such a solid spine behind him and such a supportive sister that will actually go the extra mile to make sure that you get the cards back, and that OP actually got some justice in this situation, as he should. Thank you for sharing the story with us, OP. I hope everything continues to get better in the future. But what did you guys think of that one, and what would you have done differently in this situation? Let me know in the comments. Okay, and our next post doesn't have an update, but it's from the Am I the Arsehole subreddit. It's posted by user KKOK5505 and is titled, Am I the arsehole here for cancelling all of our streaming services to hire a housekeeper without asking my husband first? So my, 28 female, and my husband, 30 male, just welcomed our first baby almost 3 months ago. Understandably, it's been a huge adjustment for both of us. She's still not sleeping through the night, and we're both back to work full-time. We've always split the household responsibilities 50-50. We just help where needed, and it's always worked out well. Lately, my husband's been doing the chores terribly, and I've had to come behind him to fix things or clean them again. For example, he cleaned the bottles the other night, and they were cleaned so poorly that I had to do them again. He dropped pump parts down the disposal and then ran it, ruining them. Is this weaponized incompetence? Is it? It feels like it to me, or is OP an unreliable narrator? There have been several clothes that he didn't clean after a blowout that are now ruined. There are many more instances like this. I've confronted him a few times, letting him know that we all make mistakes, and I know that we are both tired, but it feels like he's not even trying to do things well. He just keeps saying that he's so tired and is having a hard time working and taking care of the house and baby. I do sympathize with this, as I am also working, pumping, recovering, and taking care of the house and baby. But the final straw for me was when he told me to go to sleep and that he would put up the milk that I'd just pumped and finish the dishes. I was so grateful until I got up and realized the milk had been sitting on the counter and at this point was no good anymore. He said he was sorry, and he put on a show to relax for a bit before doing the dishes and fell asleep. The next day, I decided to cancel all of our streaming services, PlayStation Plus, and our theme park passes in order to hire a housekeeper. The theme park passes? You only gotta pay for those yearly. Oh my god. Evil. I figured if he's too tired to do basic household chores, then a housekeeper is necessary. If he's too tired to put milk up, then he's too tired to play video games, or for us to go to a theme park. Honestly, kind of valid, I'm not gonna lie. We still have cable and the PlayStation games, and can do other activities outside of the local theme park. He blew up at me and said that I had no right doing that, and was furious. I thought I was doing us a favor so we can get some more sleep and not worry as much about household tasks. So am I the asshole here for hiring a housekeeper without asking? I want to say that decisions made in anger cannot be undone, but I don't think that applies to this situation. You've tried so many times to get him to understand where you're coming from, you've tried to communicate with this man, yet he keeps using his weaponized incompetence against you and keeps making excuses for his actions and doesn't change for the better. Instead of doing better, he just says, "Oh, I'm tired, so therefore I'm not going to try." That's not okay. That's genuinely not okay for him to do that. If he continues to slack and make excuses, that's going to lead to the breakdown of the relationship, and I think you're justified for your actions here. If he's not going to change, something else has to change in this situation, and getting a housekeeper so that he can have his rest if he really is tired, while having to sacrifice these other pleasures, that has to happen. Like, the alternative is divorce, and you guys not being a team anymore, and I don't think either of you want that. I think you're not the asshole in this situation. Badass Mills says, wait, did you cancel these things in order to afford the cleaner service, or did you cancel because you think it's taking up time? OP says, yes, to afford it. No Lychee says, OP, from someone who went through this with twins, what you're going through is normal when the babies come home. It's exhaustion, depression, etc. I did eventually get a nanny after my wife kept asking for one. What you have to realize is that not everyone handles being sleep-deprived the same way. In my household, it was the opposite. I'm used to operating with less sleep due to work, but my wife wasn't. You have two zombies walking around and annoying each other, and the infant doesn't help. You should have discussed this as a couple and came to the decision. Canceling everything was a power move to punish him for making mistakes. If it wasn't, then why did you just do it without talking it out first? I gave in to a nanny even though I didn't think I needed it. But at the end of the day, it was for the sanity of my wife. You have to work as a team. Get through the next 6 months somehow, and you will be golden. You're the asshole. Fork says, she has discussed this with him. He responds, but I'm tired. Which is him abdicating his responsibility to come up with a solution as a couple. That was his power move, telling her that it's her problem to figure out, which she did. Fleet and Flotilla says, nah, there's no excuse for him telling her to nap because he would clean up and then immediately going and relaxing. I don't care how tired he is, he's definitely milking not doing things right, and even if he's not, it's not appropriate for him to make things harder on her when she's also tired and capable of not doing everything half-assed. OP is absolutely correct. If he's too tired to do the chores right, he's too tired to need all of those luxuries. OP also comes back to the post with an edit and says, I see a lot of comments about communication. I have been communicating non-stop about my needs and expectations. I've let a lot of mistakes slide because I know this is hard for the both of us, but when it became a daily thing, I let him know if he's unable to do his part, then I needed additional help. I mentioned hiring some help, and he laughed and said, what a ridiculous waste of money. I knew if I asked again, the answer would be no, so I made the decision for the both of us. Also, I didn't throw away the TV or PlayStation, I just cancelled our subscriptions for them. We were paying around $100 between the two. Our internet includes a handful of cable channels and Peacock, and we have plenty of PlayStation games that we can still play. We both play video games and watch TV. I probably watch more on streaming, so cancelling them affects the both of us. Housekeeping is $300 a month, and everything I cancelled, including Disney passes, is about $230, so it won't be as much of a financial burden. Plus, it'll save more money as well since I won't have to replace destroyed pump parts, clothes, and breast milk. Am I the asshole for defending my daughter's choice to turn down a boy's advances? Hello all, my husband and I have been arguing about this all day, and I need some outside perspective. My husband picked my daughter Cindy up from school, and he saw her speaking to a schoolmate that she had previously had a crush on. For context, last year during a sleepover, my husband and I overheard Cindy's friends lightly teasing her over having a crush on this boy. My husband also gently teased her with some innocent jokes, like, Cindy and boy sitting on a tree, KISSING, type of silliness, and he sometimes brings it up randomly to tease her, like asking her if she wants to invite her boyfriend when we go on family outings. She never actually dated him or is even friends with him as far as I know. Her dad just likes to tease her. Anyways, apparently over the summer the boy was injured in an accident and he missed the first couple of weeks of school as a result. When my husband was picking her up, he saw them talking and noticed the boy had significant scarring on his face and hand. When he asked her what happened to him and what they were talking about, saying that the boy looked disappointed, she explained to him about his accident and that he was just asking her out on a date, but that she turned him down. My husband was furious and scolded her for being so shallow as to reject him because his appearance had changed. Cindy was crying when she got home. She told me all of this and insisted that she was polite when turning him down and was just not interested in him romantically anymore. I told my husband to apologize to my daughter and that he never should have made her feel bad for turning down anyone's romantic advances. I told him that our daughter is old enough to decide who she is attracted to, and it would be cruel for her to have to say yes out of pity, thus leading him on. My husband is now saying that he sees me differently and that I should be ashamed of teaching Cindy to be a shallow monster and ableist. He's also angry that I undermined him when he was scolding our daughter and says that we should not undermine each other's authority when disciplining our child. I was not doing it to undermine him. I just think it's not healthy to make our daughter feel guilty and shamed for not being interested in someone. I do feel bad for the boy, but I don't think it's anyone's place, neither mine nor my husband's, to tell Cindy that she has to date someone or she's a bad person. Am I the asshole? Yeah, I don't think it's your place to tell Cindy she has to date someone or that she's a bad person. I feel like Cindy has figured that out for herself here. I try to be sympathetic of the husband in this situation and see where he's coming from and why he sees OP differently now and that she should be ashamed for teaching Cindy to be a shallow monster and ableist. Cindy can date whoever the hell she wants. Cindy has free choice in whatever she wants to do in her life, and I don't think that he should be guilt-tripping Cindy into doing something she doesn't want to do under the guise of being ableist. I think the husband is reaching here, not the asshole OP. Nerdy Swamp Witch 40 says, not the asshole. Just because Cindy may or may not have had a crush on this boy last year doesn't mean that she always would, especially after not being around him all summer. Your husband made a massive leap in assuming the only reason Cindy isn't interested anymore is the boy's scarring. He didn't talk to her. He jumped on her and pushed an unfortunate narrative that Cindy owed this boy her attention, but she does not. You need to point out to your husband that what is ableist is insisting that Cindy date a boy purely because he now has scarring and that she can't turn him down because he deserves it to make up for what happened to him. That's a gross way to look at disability. If he has concerns about Cindy judging only on appearances, he could have had a calm and reasoned conversation with her. But he chose not to, and that's on him. And I'm also wondering if his constant teasing contributed to her loss of interest in the guy. My dad did this to me too, and so I tended to drop crushes before it felt like he was shaming me for liking someone. Plus, I knew that if I actually ended up dating said crush, the teasing would only get worse. In the end, I stopped telling my parents about my crushes because I just couldn't deal with the incessant teasing. That shit hurts your self-esteem. That he literally said punish her because she made a choice for herself is wild. Should she say yes to anybody no matter what so they don't feel rejected? He is so out of line that I'm gobsmacked. Girls need to learn that they're allowed to say no to anyone for any reason. Oh my god, I can't. OP comes back to the post with an edit and says, wow, I didn't anticipate this getting so many responses when I wrote it last night before bed. I'm trying to read through all the replies so that I can approach this with my husband again later today. I'm also going to have a talk privately with Cindy about the situation. Thank you so much for all of the responses. I feel more confident now in my choice to defend Cindy. My husband's not a bad guy. He didn't tease Cindy to hurt her. It was to be playful, and Cindy didn't seem bothered by it. She would usually brush him off when he made those jokes. I think my husband was short-sighted when it came to this situation, but he's not a bad father, and he really loves me and his daughter, even if he makes mistakes sometimes. Following up the edit, OP comes back with an update and says, hi everyone. I got a lot of responses yesterday, and I thought I should update on what happened since I posted. I wanted to address some things first that I saw in the replies. Many comments were either implying or outright saying that if my daughter's reason for turning down the boy, I'll call him Sam for this post, were primarily because of the change in appearance after his accident, that would mean that my husband was right and she was a shallow monster and I was enabling her. This didn't sit right with me and hurt me to hear. But people also pointed out that if the roles were reversed, and it was my daughter whose appearance had changed, and was then rejected by a boy, then I would probably be livid at this boy, right? These comments stuck with me and really made me think more deeply about this whole situation, and I'm really glad that I was asked these things, because it made me realize what lessons I wanted my daughter to get from this situation. I realized that although I would be upset if this happened to my daughter, I wouldn't be upset at someone for rejecting her so long as they treat her with respect and dignity. I would be upset at the unfair situation she was in, but I would never expect some random person to make it their mission to rectify this injustice at the expense of their own autonomy. I would instead comfort my daughter and explain to her that people are like puzzle pieces. Not all of them fit together, and that just because a boy she liked wasn't her puzzle piece does not make her any less valuable or beautiful, and one day she might find someone who does fit well with her. The lesson I wanted my daughter to learn from this was that she was not shallow for rejecting someone romantically, regardless of the reason, even if it was physical. That everyone is owed human decency and respect, but not romantic affection. Denying someone equal respect and dignity because of their appearance would be shallow, but she didn't do that. Her romantic affection is not a commodity to be distributed. It belonged to her, and she is not obligated to be fair when it comes to who she wants to share it with. It belonged to her alone, and is a privilege that she gets to bestow on someone that she likes and who treats her well. A lot of the comments really made me realize how important it is for Cindy to feel like her consent matters, because what could start with just going on a date that she doesn't want to go on, could one day escalate into her being pressured or coerced into dangerous and traumatizing situations or abusive relationships. Thank you so much to the commenters who shared their stories, which helped me realize how important this was. Some people claimed that I would likely leave my husband if his appearance changed, but I'm sorry to disappoint you guys because I would never do such a thing. I love my husband so much, my relationship with him is stronger than just dating or a crush. We built a life together, and his appearance changing would not change that. We've been married for long enough that my attraction to him and love for him now go far deeper than looks. Maybe it would be a different story if we were just dating and barely knew each other, but things change once you make vows to each other to stick together in sickness or health. Many people are claiming that my husband is a monster and is abusive, and it may seem that way if all you know about him is this one situation, but he is a full human being. He does more for this family every day than I could ever express in one post. He has issues with anger, in that he often says things he regrets during, but when he cools off, he is always open to listening and communication. I know now how damaging his teasing of Cindy about Sam was last year, and I'll make sure that that doesn't happen again. But I assure all of you that this is something that he has done out of ignorance and not malice. He loves Cindy to bits and would never intentionally do something to harm her. Okay, so on to what happened yesterday. My husband woke up and left the house early, so I didn't get a chance to talk to him. When Cindy woke up, I made sure that she was okay and told her that I wanted to talk to her about what happened the day before. Her friend's mum gave her a ride home, and she got here before my husband did, so we were able to have a heart-to-heart. I told her that she doesn't need to explain to me or anyone why she changed her mind about Sam, and I explained to her all of the things that I mentioned above, that Sam was going through something very hard, and she should be kind to him, but she doesn't owe him a date if she's not interested in him romantically, that she isn't shallow, and she should never feel pressure to do something with someone that she doesn't want to do, and that her dad was upset and said things that he didn't mean. Even so, he still loves her, and so do I. She was starting to cry, so I held her for a while. She told me she was upset more than anything that her dad thinks of her as a bad person. This broke my heart, and so I told her that I would talk to Dad about this when he gets home. When my husband got home, I told him that we needed to talk about yesterday. He didn't want to at first, but I insisted and told him that it was about Cindy's well-being, as she was still upset about it, and even thinks that her own father thinks that she is a bad person. This upset him, and he said of course he didn't think that. I basically explained to him my thoughts above, and although he was a bit resistant at first and insisted he just didn't want Cindy to become a shallow person, he really listened when I explained to him how people might take advantage of her in the future if she starts to feel like her consent and her desire don't matter. I didn't show him the post I made, but I wrote down some of the comments and stories and told them to him. I told him that there were stories that I found on Reddit from people who experienced something similar. I didn't show him my post because so many comments were unfairly painting him as a monster, and I was worried that it would make him defensive. I think it broke through to him because he was really upset at the thought of our daughter one day being manipulated into staying with someone who was hurting her. He went to talk to her privately in her room while I prepared dinner, and afterwards, she seemed a lot happier and was joking around with her dad again. Today, we're both planning to go bowling together as well. Thank you everyone for the advice, the stories, and for motivating me to stick to my decision to defend Cindy. You guys are awesome. Unpopular Kryptonite says, really good job explaining your stance, OP. Every man reading this should take a printout of this for them to refer to when they're asked why they said no to dating a single mom, or an overweight woman, or a woman of a certain ethnicity or race. She's not my type, I am not ready right now. Non-committal, polite-sounding statements that don't really say much about your reason for rejecting her. Trin42 says, not gonna lie, I had mixed feelings about your post, OP. I saw both sides and reversed the situation as well, and I felt for you. There were so many things that you never considered, so I'm really glad you absorbed what this sub was trying to tell you. I did think your husband was the asshole for his response and words to your daughter, so I'm relieved you two were able to have a conversation to hash it out. That's a great marriage. Yes, he was still mad, but he listened and realized he wasn't righteous. My cat posts for me says, your husband called your daughter a shallow monster and said that he would never look at her or you the same way again. And he did this for, checks notes, turning down a date with a boy that she hadn't seen for months. Your husband needs help. Your daughter probably does too now. Those are the kinds of words that stay with a person forever. And Siren 2040 says, unfortunately, whether you want to recognize it or not, the fact that your husband's immediate response to your daughter turning down a date with a boy was to call her a monster, call her horrible, and tell her that he never wants to see her again is indicative of abusive behavior. That doesn't mean that your husband is ultimately abusive, but that he displays some abusive traits that need to either be worked on now, or you need to get out of the house before they turn even more abusive. No father who genuinely loves and cares about his child would sit there and call her a monster because she turned down a date with a boy. No father who has respect for his child would do that. No father who wants to be involved in his child's life would say that. Your husband needs to get into some serious anger management classes, or some therapy to work through whatever it is that causes him to explode and say things he regrets. Because it's not just going to stop at words. It never does. And that reminds me a lot of a little motivational photo that I saw recently. It's a photo of a dog jumping off of a cliff to bite onto an eagle midair, and it says, "Choices made in anger cannot be undone." It's great you could have a conversation and hash it out, yes, but I agree with that commenter. More work needs to be done with your husband, because I foresee grim tidings in the future. What's your take though, guys? I want to know what you guys have to think about this one down in the comments below. I think it's time for the next story. Our next story is by user Sandwormussi, titled, "Am I the asshole here for taking my sister's phone away after she called me a pedo at her school? I, 27 male, am the guardian of my younger sister, 13 female, and I work for the USPS. Lately, I've been on a route that delivers mail to the local middle school and high school, and she happens to go there. Today, I was at the middle school walking to the main office with the mail, and then suddenly I heard, 'Back away, pedo!' And I got really startled and looked, and it's my younger sister with her friend. She was laughing, and I told her that wasn't funny, and a nearby teacher came over firmly asking what was happening. I frantically explained that I was delivering the mail, and she was my younger sister who was making a tasteless joke, and my sister was just standing there enjoying the situation. Fortunately, the teacher heard me and just told my sister and her friend to get back to class. Before she left, I said, 'Hey,' and she looked and I sternly said, 'Give me your phone,' and she stopped for a moment and said, 'What?' And I told her to give me her phone. She protested at first, but I persisted, and she gave me her phone and seemingly was really upset and annoyed as she walked away. I got home this afternoon, and she was effing pissed at me. Finally, I got to have a conversation with her about it, and I told her that her behavior was completely inappropriate and unacceptable because she easily could have made me lose my job, which is putting food in our mouths and clothes on our backs and a roof above our head, just because she wanted a quick giggle. She continued to persist and pulled the, 'Who do you think you are, my parent?' And I said, 'I think I'm the person who pays for your cell phone bill and can easily cancel that phone plan anytime they want.' She just walked away, and I asked if she was going to eat dinner or should I put it away, and she flipped me off and went upstairs. To which I called out, 'Yeah, okay, I'm keeping your phone another day.' My sister is a big ray of hope in my sea of depression and stress, and the most important thing in my life, and the reason for trudging through this shit job. But holy shit, she can be such a brat sometimes. I'm wondering if maybe I overreacted by taking her phone. Maybe this is a completely separate thing, but sometimes it just feels so weird punishing her. Like, I feel like I'm the one supposed to help her get out of parental punishments, rather than the one asserting them. Am I the asshole here?" Actual Clue says, "Not the asshole. Accusations like that are serious. You could get fired or investigated over that. Maybe have a conversation with your sister and tell her she could get taken away if someone hears her say something like that and reports it or tells their parents." Pitch Far 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 says, "In the future, this can cause more severe problems and she has to know about that." Cam 49ers Forever says, "Not the asshole. What you didn't tell your sister, and you should, is that her little stunt could get her taken away and put into foster care. If that teacher reports the incident to CPS, they can, and frequently do, immediately remove the minor while they investigate. Unfortunately, CPS is awfully slow to respond to a younger child's neglect, but when a young teenager claims sexual abuse, they tend to act swiftly. And her telling them at that point that it was a joke won't matter, because actual victims frequently recant because of fear. Your sister is plenty old enough to know this. I agree. Not the asshole for taking her phone away. She should understand the seriousness of what she did. She needs to realize that her actions have real consequences, and it could have been a lot more serious than just a punishment from you, OP. She's just being a typical edgy teenager in this situation, and yeah, it's so funny to yell pedo, 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 until you take the joke way too far and you're getting dragged away by CPS for your own safety. This is definitely a mess around and find out situation for the sister, and OP, you're doing your best to prevent that from happening by punishing her and trying to get her to see where you're coming from and see where this is going to go if she doesn't stop. I really don't know what else you could have done in this situation, and I agree with what you've done so far, so not the asshole. Now, OP comes back with an update and says, so stuff has happened. First of all, quick update. I delivered mail at her school yesterday and saw the teacher who was involved in this situation and anxiously asked her if anything was going to come of it. She said she admittedly did have a little talk with her after, and based on what my sister said and what she saw of the situation firsthand, she didn't see a need to report it. But she did say that if my sister keeps saying stuff like that, she would feel compelled to report it. I almost dropped to my knees thanking her. So I've been thinking of the whole situation for the past 2 days, and have been soul-searching or whatever, and decided that I'd talk to her again. Now, I worked really late this afternoon, and had a pretty draining, upsetting, and really hard and heavy day. I got home rather late, but my sister actually stayed up to wait for me and said she wanted to talk to me. She asked if we could sit down, and then she told me she was really sorry for saying what she did, and she didn't mean to embarrass me or get me fired or anything, and said she was out of line for flipping me off, and told me she was sorry for that too. And then she told me that she loved me. So I had some stuff that I was trying to figure out how to articulate, but she initiated the conversation, so I just threw out what I had, even though it was undercooked. I told her that I appreciate the apology, but she clearly doesn't understand how serious her joke was. I told her that little joke seriously could have ruined both of our lives, since if the wrong person had heard, Child Protective Services would have put her into foster care and forced her to live in some rundown place with potentially dangerous people she's never met, and she would be doing so all alone without me. And I'd potentially be facing legal action and without a job, all because she wanted a little giggle. Then I said I really hadn't appreciated her attitude as of late, and the way that she's been talking to me, and I said some of her behavior is completely inappropriate. I used the flipping me off and making that joke as examples. And while I always will be her big brother, I'm also her parent right now. So I told her that I'm going to limit her screen time and internet time, and to start, I made the decision I'm going to be giving her a flip phone. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is where all hell broke loose. She just blankly stared at me for a second and said, "What?" and was asking if I was joking and why I would do that. I did my best to stay firm and just said, "I'm sorry, but that's what's gonna happen." And she was begging me and profusely apologizing for her attitude, and she asked why I was giving such a harsh punishment for her stupid joke. She actually started crying, and I felt horrible and wanted to tell her, "Actually, I'll think about it." And I felt like such an asshole for not saying that. But then once she realized I was firm, she switched planes and went into offensive mode. She started pinballing between points as to why I can't do this. I'm being controlling, malicious, self-centered, and other things. And she also made some cheap and unsavory comments relating to the fact that I recently received an autism diagnosis and questioning the effect that has on my decision-making skills. Oh wow, she pulled no punches, Jesus Christ. Straight to the bin with this one. I think that was the one time I lost my cool in that conversation because I just said, ableism, nice. And she said something ridiculous like, "Is it ableism if you're actually being stupid?" Oh shit! And I nodded and said, "A well thought out rebuttal." Some more shit was said, but it ended with her literally screaming and saying that I was being unreasonable and that she hates me before going upstairs. That went about as I expected. I'm just really happy she didn't tell me she wished I was dead again, or that she wished she didn't live with me. Pretty low bar, but I was anticipating that. I can live with, "I hate you." I don't really have much to say except, God, I can't wait until I go back to being her brother instead of her parent. So that's the update. A bunch of numbers says, quote, she asked why I was giving such a harsh punishment for a stupid joke. She didn't stay up to apologize, she stayed up to get her phone back. You're doing the right thing. If she doesn't realize the seriousness of her accusation, because that's what it was, not a joke, then she will do it again and ruin someone's life. All good parents hear that their teenagers hate them at one point or another. You should look into what resources are available to you. She would benefit from a neutral, trustworthy adult to hear this from and to talk about how to appropriately handle feelings that accompany such big changes in her life. Kazbrecker is my love says, she probably only really apologized to get her phone back, and it didn't go the way that she hoped. Her joke could have seriously hurt you and herself, and it's not even funny. Now she's being offensive because you're not giving her what she wants. Hopefully she actually realizes the shit she says, but it seems like she won't until she faces a more serious consequence. You're doing what you can, and the fact that you even stepped up to parent her is amazing, and I'm so sorry she doesn't appreciate you the way she should. OP replies, I don't think there wasn't any sincerity to her apology, but I certainly do think she had some kind of expectation to at least get an idea of when she'd have her phone back. I probably caught her off guard with that, which is why she reacted so strongly, but my biggest takeaway from all of this is just how much of an impact the idea of not having a smartphone had on her. I don't mean to be a "you kids these days" boomer, but dude, I would have been ecstatic to get a flip phone at 13. Additionally, I think she did understand what she said was dangerous. When I was telling her about how she could have ended up in foster care all alone and without me, she had this look on her face of, oh shit, I messed up. Synesthesia replies, and yet her behavior reverted pretty much immediately. So as a lesson, it didn't really stick. OP replies, maybe I'm being too generous here, but I'm willing to believe that she was just caught off guard and reacted. I'm going to have a talk with her tonight or tomorrow once we both calm down to discuss the logistics of her having a flip phone and when she'll get the smartphone back. I guess we'll see then. Fair enough with that one, OP. She could have just been caught off guard and reacted. If that is your take on the situation and because you know her better, then I believe you, and I'm going to say she reacted out of ignorance and not malice. I really do hope that you can continue to drill into her head the fact that she is going to get taken away if she doesn't learn her lesson from this. And I really hope she doesn't have to learn her lesson the hard way, as many people do. Also, flip phones are sick. We need to bring them back because smartphones are destroying society. There, I said it. Anyway, I'd love to know what you guys have to think about this one down in the comments below. Let me know if you have a flip phone. Alright, and now it's time for our next story by a deleted user, titled, Am I the asshole for not inviting my sister to my wedding because of her husband? So I, 29 female, am getting married in a few months, and I decided not to invite my older sister Emily, 32 female. Before you judge, here is why. Emily's husband Jake is a nightmare. He's rude, makes inappropriate jokes, and always tries to dominate every conversation. At family gatherings, he interrupts people, brags about his job, and even talks down to my fiancé Mike, 30 male. The last straw was at our engagement party a few months ago. Jake got drunk and made a speech, uninvited of course, where he joked about how I finally found someone who could put up with me. Everyone was uncomfortable, and Mike was furious, but we let it go to keep the peace. Fast forward to wedding planning, and Mike and I agreed that we didn't want Jake ruining our big day. I called Emily and explained that while we love her, we didn't want Jake there because of his behavior. I even offered to have a separate celebration with her after the wedding, but she was livid. She said I was forcing her to choose between me and her husband, and that it was cruel to exclude her because of him. Now my parents are upset too, saying that I'm tearing the family apart, but I don't think I'm in the wrong for not wanting someone who disrespects me and my fiancé at our wedding. Am I the asshole? Look, with situations like this, it's always going to be your wedding, your choice. That is above all. I don't care what your parents have to say. I don't care what Emily has to say. If someone disrespects you and you don't want them at your wedding, that's it. Open shut case right there. You're not an asshole for that. Other people don't get to dictate your wedding. Gothic Labyrinth says, not the asshole. You're not tearing the family apart. Jake is. And honestly, if your parents are going to choose his side over their daughters, then they're not doing a great job of keeping the family together either. Miss Moonlight Love says, "It's your wedding day, and you have every right to decide who attends. You've given your sister an alternative option to celebrate, so it's not like you're excluding her completely. Your sister's husband has shown clear disrespect, and it makes sense that you wouldn't want someone who makes everyone uncomfortable to be part of such a special day. Your sister is understandably upset, but that's more about her choosing to defend her husband's poor behavior rather than acknowledging your feelings. You are not tearing the family apart, you're simply standing up for yourself and setting boundaries." And Fun Eliana says, "You're in a really tough situation, and it's clear you have valid reasons for wanting to exclude Jake from your wedding. Your feelings about his behavior, especially at such an important event, are completely understandable. It's your wedding day, and you want it to be a positive experience for you and your fiancé." So Opie comes back with an update and says, "Thank you so much for all of your advice. After reading through the comments, I decided to talk to Emily one more time before making any final decisions. I wanted to explain how deeply Jake's behavior had affected me and Mike, and why it was important to have a wedding where we felt respected and comfortable. We met for dinner, and I laid it all out. How Jake's behavior at the engagement party crossed the line, and how it wasn't just about one incident, but a pattern of disrespect. I told her I loved her, but I didn't feel like I could allow Jake to be at the wedding. I also made it clear that I didn't want to lose her as a sister, and I hoped she would understand why we felt this way." To my surprise, Emily was really receptive. She said she had been feeling conflicted about Jake's behavior too, and that it was hard for her to admit that he was wrong. She apologized for not seeing things from my perspective sooner. Emily actually said that while she still loves Jake, she's noticed that his attitude has been causing problems in their marriage and with other family members too. But the biggest shock? She offered to talk to Jake herself. She said she didn't want to miss my wedding over his behavior and would explain to him why it was best that he not attend. I was honestly relieved, but also worried about how that conversation would go. A few days later, Emily called me and said that she talked to Jake. Apparently, he was upset at first, but eventually agreed to not come to the wedding. Emily told him that it was about maintaining family peace and supporting me on my big day. She reassured him that this wasn't a permanent ban from family events, just a decision to keep the wedding atmosphere positive. Jake wasn't thrilled, but he agreed to stay home. Emily will be attending the wedding on her own, and while things are still a bit tense between her and Jake, I'm grateful that she chose to support me. We're in such a better place now, and she's even helping me with some last-minute wedding prep. As for Jake, I'm hoping that this situation might be a wake-up call for him. But for now, I'm just happy that my sister will be there on my special day." Aridomus says, "He agreed to stay home." Bitch, you ain't agreed to shit, you ain't invited. But I'm glad your sister is doing the right thing. Cthulhu LaRue says, "I'm glad it sounds like it's resolved with your sister, but you should hire security in case dude decides to crash your wedding and he's just lying low right now. Or make sure your bridal party is ready to yeet his ass out." And Cinema Freak says, "Security or 5 of your biggest cousins, because I would not trust him not to show up." At the end of the day, I'm very glad that Emily is actually on your side in this one and doesn't just scream abuse at you like we so often see in these stories. Like everyone else here, I don't trust that Jake is going to keep his word and stay away from the wedding. Like, yes, I agree. I hope this situation should be a wake-up call for him, but, you know, we've seen people like him before. I don't think it's going to be. I think he's going to continue pushing your boundaries. You ain't agreed to shit, Jake. You ain't invited. All you're saying is, okay, I'm telling you that I'm not gonna wedding crash. Good, I hope you stay home, Jake. Anyway, I'd love to know what you guys would do to Jake to stop him from coming to the wedding. Am I the asshole for pouring wine on my husband's ex-girlfriend? A few days ago, I told my mother-in-law that I'd bring her grandkids, our gorgeous twins who were 5 years old, to her house for dinner. It was a gesture of good faith, as she and father-in-law had babysat for an entire weekend, while hubby and I took some time to ourselves. Mother-in-law decided to make that dinner a grand occasion and invited the entire family over. Fine with me, the more the merrier. Except half an hour after we arrive, Jo walks in. The entirety of her back out, titties popping and all. Now, Joe's my husband's ex-girlfriend, who also happens to be a favorite of mother-in-law and a longtime friend of hubby's family. I don't know why they didn't work out, but frankly, I don't care. Long story short, Joe does what she always does at these functions: touch my husband inappropriately, whisper in his ear, try to eat off his plate, etc. She went as far as to try and steal my seat next to him at the dinner table. Luckily, my sister-in-law was able to stop her. Hubby is generally okay with putting his foot down. If she does anything truly egregious, he does put a stop to it, but to him, her touchy behavior and the way that she tends to hover around him and try to get his attention don't fall in that category. I told myself to ignore her and not let her get to me, but she pulled me aside later that evening and said absolutely horrible things to me, telling me that it was only a matter of time before my husband left me and that he was using me as a breeding plant, etc. Fun fact, I am currently pregnant again, and at that point, I had had enough. So I dumped my drink on her and walked away. Joe absolutely lost it and walked out of the house. Hubby's extended family generally has a good opinion of me, so no one thinks that I did this on purpose. I did, and I'd do it again. Preach. But my husband knows better. He pulled me to the side to confront me about it, and was surprisingly angry. Did I make a bit of a scene? Sure, but his anger wasn't proportional to that at all. If you can't tell, hubby's the type of person that doesn't like to make a scene, especially around his family. I've complained about his proximity to Joe multiple times before this all went down. I've asked him to cut contact with her and basically just ignore her presence, and he's refused on the basis that she's a family friend. Basically, he thought that I was overreacting every time I'd bring her up. But I'm tired of being the bigger person. Why should I have to watch her throw herself at him and rise above? No. That wench got what was coming to her, and my actions were long overdue. We argued back and forth about it for a while before I eventually revealed what she had said to me at the dinner. He understood my anger at that point, but I don't think that it should have even gotten that far for him to understand why I don't want her around. The fact that he would trust the character of an ex over his wife of 10 plus years and the mother of his children is baffling and incredibly hurtful. I explained this to him, and he adamantly disagrees and gives excuses. So now we're here. Hubby thinks that I should have brought up what she said from the beginning. To me, this issue isn't what she said in and of itself, but her behavior as a whole. As a disclaimer, I know my husband is not cheating on me with this woman. We spend every waking second either together or with the kids. He wouldn't have time to. I trust him completely as well. It just bothers me how comfortable and desperate that woman is. Mother-in-law loves her, and Joe can do no wrong in her eyes. So I suppose that's where she gets the confidence from. That aside, I don't understand why he allows her to come near him in the first place. Am I the asshole? Edit. No, I was not drinking while pregnant. I have not told my husband's family that I'm pregnant, as we haven't passed the first trimester yet. Hubby had gotten me juice in a wine glass, but because no one knew, the narrative became that I threw wine. Edit 2. Got a couple of people asking how taking the kids to dinner is a reward for mother-in-law. She had been asking for us to come around to dinner for a while, and is always asking for an excuse to see our kids. We don't live very close by anymore, so in-person visits are rare nowadays. She also really enjoys cooking for everyone and would do weekly dinners when hubby and I still lived in her area. My husband's family is Italian, if that gives any idea. First and foremost, definitely got a husband problem. He's lapping this up, he loves it. He doesn't want this to stop. Look how much fun he's having with you, OP. How is that not obvious to you? Yes, he doesn't like scenes, but I reckon he secretly loves the scene that you two are causing over him. That's what makes the most sense here. How do you not see that? And obviously you have a mother-in-law problem too, because she's aiding and abetting Joe in messing with you as often as possible. Your mother-in-law knows that Joe shouldn't have been at this function. She knows what Joe does. How can you not tell that she loves the drama too? This is a dramatic Italian family, OP. You got a big problem there. I think you're not the asshole for throwing the drink, because that's really funny, but I don't think that's going to solve the Joe problem either. Careless Welder says, not the asshole. Your husband may not be cheating, but he sure likes the effing attention that she gives him. I hope you're well aware that you have a husband problem. Murphy replies, any decent man wouldn't let another woman touch him and give him inappropriate attention. OP has a husband problem and is refusing to see it. He shouldn't have let it get this far. OP needs to get a backbone and tell her husband to stop acting this way or she is leaving. Mark Your Side says, not the asshole. Your husband's ex is way out of line. You've been patient, but you're not obligated to tolerate her disrespect. Your husband needs to understand that his loyalty should be with you and not his ex. Following that up, OP comes back with a kind of update. I ended up showing Hubby the comments and PMs that I got from my post a couple of days after, which were largely against him. I didn't anticipate it swaying his opinion much, and it didn't. In fact, it made the situation worse. He didn't like the overwhelming majority of comments claiming that he liked the attention, but he does like it, and thought that I embellished details about Joanna's behavior in the post. I did not, and in many cases, I downplayed just how crazy some of her actions are. Manipulation's so good. I asked him if his mum even liked me, and he didn't even respond to the question. He looked at me, and we sat in silence for a full effing minute. Oh no! He can't even come up with a good lie. That's insane. Many people under my previous post said that I was crazy if I thought mother-in-law would invite hubby's ex to dinner with his wife and kids there as a show of respect and goodwill. Call me crazy? You're crazy, OP. But I bought into the whole she's a family friend crap and continually let it slide. I cried non-stop for days after our conversation. Maybe I'm an idiot and I should have seen the signs, but I genuinely thought that me and my mother-in-law had a decent relationship, especially now that I have the twins. There was some stuff that happened early on in Hubby and I's relationship that caused some discord, but I thought that we'd moved past it all. Clearly not. I think it's much more likely that she likes her grandkids and just tolerates the vehicle that produced them. Hubby and I stood at somewhat of an impasse for a week after. I'm very loving by nature, but I've just about had it with this situation, so I was irritable, quiet, just a complete 180 from my usual self. We talked again and he said he'd tried to be more assertive with Joe. I told him there'd be no need, since I had no plans on going to his mother's house anymore. Me not going means the twins can't either, since he can't very well be expected to entertain his family and look after the children that he helped create. Note the sarcasm. It didn't seem very sarcastic to me. Though that does work in my favor, since mother-in-law loves the twins, and he apparently cannot stand to disappoint her. The impasse continued. I've had a few complications with my pregnancy since then. Baby and I are okay, nothing too worrisome, and there's been so many other things happening in our lives that the frigid air between us has slowly started to melt. We have not resolved the situation at all, just glossed over it in favor of more pressing matters. I really do need him right now, and I'm not necessarily mad that things are starting to go back to normal. I just know that it's going to become a thing the next time his mum throws an event. I will convince myself that this time around will be fine, and it won't, because it's never fine. But I'm unsure of how to bring up the issue again without seeming like I'm dragging up the past. It truly does drive me crazy, even more so now that I realize mother-in-law's kindness isn't fully genuine. Is there any advice on bringing this up carefully, on resolving this issue once and for all? I'm at my wit's end because I adore this man in every other aspect, but I can't keep putting up with this. Away Understanding says, I'm still of the thought that he likes the attention. He's not shutting down her antics. He's not insisting that people respect you and your marriage. I know you adore him, but does he really adore you? It doesn't look that way to me. Just know that if he goes alone to these events, Joe will definitely be trying things, and mother-in-law will encourage it. I don't believe he will be as faithful as you think he will be. A faithful, adoring man stands up for his spouse and his relationship. He is not doing that. Destiny says, I'm of the opinion that she's already his side piece. A woman wouldn't be that bold if she didn't have any reason to believe what she is saying. And Material Cellist says, to be honest, next time just embarrass your husband, mother-in-law, and the ex and say, are you two banging? Is that why you don't stop her being all over you and mother-in-law keeps inviting her to all the events? Is that it? Because if it is, just let me know and I'll step aside. I don't need this high school drama in my life. And if not, then act like adults and keep your hands to yourself. And mother-in-law, keep your friends in line. This is a tricky one. Definitely seems like a situation that can be salvaged if you draw a strict boundary like that one in that suggested comment. But it's been going on for so long, and yeah, I don't think she'd be doing it unless she had a reason to that OP is not aware of. You can cope all you want with this by saying, oh, he doesn't have the time to do it, but we've seen time and time again, people can and will emotionally cheat on you, and then physically, if they can get away with it, if they want to enough. I don't want to say go through his phone, but go through his phone, OP. OP then comes back 3 weeks later with another update and says, "Dear husband and I met in college. At the time, he and his on-again, off-again ex had broken up, so I asked him out. If I'd known back then what I know now, I'm not sure if I would have bothered. 2 years into our relationship, I still hadn't met his parents. He hadn't met mine because my family is a disaster, which is an entirely different story, but from what I could tell, his parents seemed fine. When I asked why I hadn't met them, he joked that his mum didn't like me because of his ex." Oh man, hindsight's 2020, huh? I can't recall his specific words, but that was the general idea. Anyway, I treated it like a joke, because he did, and as time progressed, it felt less and less like a joke and more like the startling truth. I finally got to meet mother-in-law and father-in-law a few months down the line, and the welcome? Underwhelming to say the least, but I figured that it was just me having weird expectations. His family is Italian, so I'd done a little crappy research on what to expect, in addition to asking about his family. I thought they'd be a little warmer, but they weren't downright rude to me, so it was still a win in my book. As time passes, I tried to warm up to mother-in-law, but nothing worked. Her indifference slowly turned into thinly veiled disdain. For one of father-in-law's birthdays, I got him a handmade, expensive as hell, I still think about that goddamn wallet, it enrages me, Italian leather wallet with dear husband's, boyfriend at the time's, approval. Turns out Italians have a superstition against gifting empty wallets, which made the gift a bit awkward. But father-in-law didn't make a big deal and even gave me a coin to turn it into a purchase instead of a gift. We laughed, and I thought things were fine, until I found the wallet tucked away in my dear husband's apartment a month later. I found out from him that mother-in-law apparently said that she got father-in-law a better one, so mine wasn't needed anymore. When that happened, and why no one bothered to tell me, I don't know. Oh, and father-in-law fell ill shortly afterwards, which I'm pretty sure she blamed on me too. Mother-in-law speaks fluent English, but for the first couple of months of knowing her, I was led to believe that she only spoke Italian, because that's all she would speak around me. Granted, I could have asked dear husband about her level of English, but it just didn't occur to me. I assumed one would speak English around company that didn't speak their native language if they had the ability to. Imagine my shock hearing him speak fluent English for the first time. Not to me, can't remember the context, but still, what the hell? And don't get me started on wedding planning, an absolute nightmare. Mother-in-law nitpicked everything. We had a smaller budget, largely due to me, and she made sure that I felt lesser for it. She mentioned wanting to be involved, and she and father-in-law were footing most of the costs, so I said yes. My bridesmaids helped deal with her, but eventually, I cut her out of the planning entirely, because having her around was starting to suck the life out of me. She also made a big deal about my parents not attending or paying for a portion of the wedding. My family and I were completely estranged at the time, and she didn't quite seem to like that either. She'd rant in Italian, and while I didn't understand much, I knew she was shit-talking me. Oh, and she's a classic mama's boy enabler. They infantilized dear husband growing up, and there was a time where we couldn't buy groceries without her input. He is her golden boy. I've heard her refer to him as her miracle child. She has not had difficulty conceiving that I know of, but he's the only boy that she gave birth to. When friction would rise between mother-in-law and I, he'd try to keep the peace, but still took her side in many situations. He only stood firm when she insulted my upbringing or tried to make me feel unworthy of marrying dear husband. Both things I appreciated immensely because those are sore subjects, but I wish he'd done more at times. He isn't blameless in this either, but this post isn't really about him. Suffice to say, I have many a story of how shitty and cold mother-in-law could be towards me. But then I got pregnant, and her attitude did a complete 180. Suddenly she was offering to babysit, cook meals, knit clothes, etc. She even kissed me on both cheeks when she came to see us after labor. This woman had never voluntarily touched me before this point, I don't think. We started cooking together, and she taught me family recipes and some niche Italian phrases commonly used in the village their family is from. Dare I say, we bonded. I thought we'd finally gotten past whatever the initial problem was. Maybe having kids with her son was enough to prove that I was here to stay, so she decided to warm up to me. I don't know. I had no close maternal figures in my life. I was no contact with my narcissistic mum since college, and hardly any contact with my grandmothers. So this felt incredibly cathartic. I wasn't racing to tell her my secrets or confide in her, but toying with the idea that we might be able to build up to that point made me happy. I had postpartum depression after the twins, and having her around to help was a godsend. I was hesitant at first, but she proved herself to be beyond trustworthy, and my husband and I were absolutely exhausted. I love my gorgeous girls, but 2 kids at once made me the bitchiest I've ever been. My stress levels were through the roof between feeding, nursing, changing, burping, soothing, etc. My husband was equally exhausted, and just when we would feel hopeless, mother-in-law would offer to come over, let us sleep, eat, go out, just do whatever we needed to recharge. We would talk, usually about the kids, but I just felt excited that she wanted to hold conversation with me. In the past, she hadn't bothered. If she called, it was her son's phone, and they'd speak, and then she'd hang up. But suddenly, she was asking to speak to me as well. There was something extremely validating about it all, and I was happy to put the past to bed in favor of this new change. But recently, through a situation that's related but not the focus of this post, I realized she never respected me or my relationship with her son. For the past decade, mother-in-law has been inviting my husband's ex to family gatherings and turning a blind eye to her blatant advances on him. She was introduced as a family friend, so I thought nothing of it initially. Plus, as mother-in-law's and I's relationship improved, I assumed any malice she showed toward me would naturally fade. She had been inviting husband's ex to family events prior to me giving birth, and continued to do so well after. I don't know why, but I made the dumb assumption that because it continued, it couldn't have been in bad taste. We had gotten past our bad blood after all, so if she was still inviting dear husband's ex, it couldn't have been with bad intent. Or so went my idiotic logic. But after posting about my situation, I realized that I was so horribly naive about everything. Then, a few weeks ago, I came across a post of a man disparaging his mum for treating her daughter-in-law like shit, and then switching up when she gave birth to her grandchildren. And then it clicked. That is exactly what happened to me. Mother-in-law's kindness truly may never have been genuine towards me. Rather, her love for her grandchildren outweighed any disdain she held towards me. She wasn't warming up to me at all, she was tolerating my presence to have access to my kids. Reddit really is an eye-opening place. Needless to say, I feel absolutely crushed. Everything else aside, I truly thought my mother-in-law was in my corner. The past 5 years felt so healing because of our relationship. I've never had a sustained, genuine relationship with an older woman before this, and finding out that it was all fake is numbing in ways I can't explain. I feel so effing stupid, which is saying quite a bit considering I didn't think feeling like more of an idiot was possible for me right now. I just wonder how starved for attention I must be to have missed such clear signs. Grieving a relationship that only existed on my end is effing hard, and coming to terms with my own lack of awareness and disillusionment has been a battle, among several others, that I just feel like I am effing losing. I feel a bit pathetic, all things considered, because how did I not realize? And now all these thoughts flood my mind of what she's been telling my children when she's with them, whether or not extended family is in on it as well. I have been a mess. God, I feel sick. There is certainly many layers to this situation, but this one hurts much more than I thought it would. I'm gonna stop here because I've already written ample, but I am more than going through it. Straight Paper says, I think this is a prime example of how childhood abuse basically primes a person for a life of dysfunction. I bet that if OP sat down and wrote the chronological love story of her relationship with her husband the same way she did with her mother-in-law's relationship, it would be underwhelming. I'm sure it would be bare minimum things that a friend or acquaintance would do, and it's peppered with low-effort, grand gestures. The truth of the matter is that she needs to start making her exit plan, develop some marketable skills, build a community outside of her husband's family, and get some therapy. And if she decides to stay, get some therapy and learn some damn Italian. And Lady Eclectic says, God, it's so hard to distance yourself from toxic situations like this when hubby doesn't have your back. Even a divorce wouldn't be enough because OP is now tied permanently via their children. I don't see how this can work unless hubby gets his head out of his ass and covers for his wife. But he's still sucking at his mama's teat, and that'll never change. Yeah, I don't see it changing much either, unfortunately. This is a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, and is why so many people say, well, break up before you get married and have kids, because imagine the shit show after that. Sorry to see you stuck in this situation, OP, but as people in the comments have showed you, there are ways around it, there are ways to cope with this, and it's not the end of the world. I personally see this ending in divorce because I think the husband has shown irreconcilable behavior and actions towards OP that favor the ex and his family above her, and consistently does these things. He's consistently failed OP in this situation, and it's really sad to see. Anyway, guys, let me turn this to you. What are your thoughts on this situation? What advice would you give OP? Let me know in the comments down below. With that said, let's move to our next story. This was posted by a throwaway account and is titled, My 32 female, boyfriend 36 male, deleted my dead brother from my Instagram friends, and he doesn't seem to understand or care that I'm upset. 6 years ago, my twin brother Sam died in a horrible accident on the freeway. It was one of the biggest accidents in our state. My only comfort is that he died immediately. The police said that he most likely had no idea anything was happening around him. Anyway, before he died, Sam was a huge social media user, mostly on Instagram and Snapchat. I never followed him on Snapchat, but I followed him on Instagram. He made thousands of posts about his life, friends, family, and music, and he was an amazing singer. After he died, I would go to his account and just scan through his accounts. I mostly watched a few videos that he made where he does a dialogue for ESL speakers. He taught English to ESL students for extra money. I'd often pretend he was speaking to me. I know it's not healthy to listen to my dead brother's voice every day, but it just became a habit. A few weeks ago, my boyfriend had been urging me to break free from this. He told me that I need to move on. I did start. I would only watch one video or even not use my phone until right before I went to bed. But last night, I went to check my brother's account and I saw that it was gone. I was upset. I texted my sister and she said that she could still see his account. My boyfriend told me that he blocked my brother on my account. I was annoyed, but simply thought that I could just go back to following him. But my brother's account was private, and our family couldn't access his account years ago. The reason why he blocked him is because he thought that I was in love with my brother.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks.
And even accused me of once being intimate with him, my brother. I wanted to vomit. He's my twin. We spent every single day together. Even when we grew up, we went to the same university. At the time of my brother's accident, we were roommates. I loved my brother, but not in a sick way. My boyfriend never even met my brother. He and I only started dating 2 years ago, but after this, I don't know if I can and should continue this relationship. My boyfriend keeps saying that I should move on, that what he did wasn't a big deal. But it was to me. Our mutual friends agree that I should just forgive and forget, but I feel like I'm grieving again. Am I living in fantasy land? Get rid of the mutual friends. Get rid of him, OP, because what in the goddamn is he talking about? What are they talking about? Being like, you know what, yeah, he has a point. Maybe you were having an incestuous relationship with your twin brother. Yeah, maybe you're the problem, OP. Who are these people and where did their brains go? Who the hell is he to block your brother from your account? What a disgusting action. You're allowed to grieve however you want. He can say it's unhealthy from a distance if he wants, but for him to directly intervene is disgusting. That man holds negative value in society, and I want to remove him from it for doing that to you. Beautiful Mistake says, Jesus, get out. OP replies, I have to. I honestly don't see myself forgiving him. My sister's allowing me to use her account, so the pictures aren't gone, but still. Why would he do this? Sunkissed Butter says, okay, but also, your boyfriend is jealous of your dead brother. I'm sorry to put it so crudely, but it is time to wake up. OP replies, you are so right. Pylutus says, this is a massive red flag, and you really should reconsider this relationship. This man decided he knew better than you about what would be best for you, and is now denying that any damage was done. What he did is bad enough, but that he accused her of being in love with her own brother? Jesus, run like the wind. And 410 Rider says, your boyfriend just decided for you that blocking your late brother's account was the magical solution to your grief? That's not how it works. Grief isn't a switch that you can just flip, especially when it's someone as close as your twin. You finding comfort in watching those videos is totally normal, and nobody gets to take that away from you. But then he takes it even further, accusing you of being in love with your brother. Dude, what? That's not just out of line, that's a whole different zip code of messed up. Grief is one thing, but him jumping to those accusations? Yeah, nah. Look, you've been taking steps at your own pace, and that's how it should be. He doesn't get to dictate how you handle your loss. Honestly, it's not about forgive and forget, it's about respect, and he clearly bulldozed that boundary. You're feeling like you're grieving again because, in a way, you are. He took away your way of connecting with your brother. Also, your friends saying just let it go? That's a hard pass. You deserve better than someone who not only doesn't get your grief, but makes it worse. And OP replies, he told me that he was just joking when he said that. It was not funny. This happened yesterday, and I'm still very upset, and I don't see myself ever forgiving him. He tried tickling me this morning to make me laugh, but I'm just so hurt. OP comes back a few days later with an update and says, I kicked him out. I gave it a few days for me to calm down, but this was just such a breach in trust. He still thinks that I'm overreacting, and I've also cut ties with our mutual friends. They were mostly his friends. This incident made me realize I need to spend more time with my family. I've been chatting more with my sister. After Sam's death, I was a bit cold towards her, but she has helped me a lot these past couple of days. Also, thanks to some amazing people on here, we were able to get into Sam's account. I'm now the owner of it. Thank you all. And lastly, Sam, I miss you every single day. ActJ30 says, how insecure does a guy have to be jealous of his girlfriend's dead twin brother? Good for OP for getting rid of this weirdo. Technical says, people are so weird about twins. Honestly, it sounds like he was thinking about her relationship with her brother way too much. R10 says, imagine doing this to a grieving partner and being delusional enough to think that it's anything but grief. And Stay Calm says, I can't. I have 3 brain cells and a soul. I do love me a happy ending, as happy as it can be, I guess, in this case. I'm so happy that OP got out of there. I'm happy that she cut ties with her friends and got access to the account. I was not expecting that, but that is very much welcome news. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. With that said, let's jump to the next story. This one was posted by user UsedEstablishment92, and it's titled, My son only eats food that I throw at him. Just to be clear, I'm not whipping ham hocks at him. My 14-month-old son thinks it's funny to throw food from his high chair. So funny that he'll forget to eat it. He's got a pretty good arm too for a baby. About a week ago, he was eating blueberries and cut up pieces of strawberry and watermelon, and he kept throwing them at me. Finally, I got fed up and tossed a blueberry back at him. It bounced off his chest. He looked at it, then back up at me, and broke into the hardest laugh that I've ever heard come out of him. I threw a few more pieces of fruit and he was cracking up, but then he reached into his high chair and ate a whole handful of it. Normally, he would just eat 1 bite at a time, and this then went on until he had eaten everything that didn't fall on the floor. We've been keeping this up for the past week. Sometimes I throw the food right into his mouth, but so far I've missed every time. I'll be honest though, I'm a little bit worried about tomorrow because it's spaghetti night. That's so cute, OP. I'm glad to hear that you're finding a way to make the kid eat at least. To find a fun way to lighten the load and get them to actually eat takes one task off of your already very much full plate. Looking forward to hearing how spaghetti night goes. A deleted user says, super effing cute, but just as a precautionary tip, remember he's still young, so if you do yeet something into his mouth, be careful with anything that could get lodged in there. I remember my firstborn choking on a bit of apple pie when she was around that age, and at the time I hadn't learned CPR for a young child and was absolutely helpless. Thankfully, one of her uncles was there to save her, but that day will forever be burned into my mind. Delu18 says, so I'm pretty sure you're just using the wrong words here, but CPR is chest compressions for breathing and blood flow, which won't help much if someone's choking. Please don't try to perform CPR on someone who's choking. Heimlich maneuver is what you want to do if someone's choking, and if it's a small baby, you should give it some firm back slaps so they could cough up whatever is choking them. And just an FYI with baby CPR, it's the same as for adults except you use 2 fingers instead of your entire hand, and obviously much less weight. And Nope says, my brother was sort of like this. He was too busy playing to have food interest, so the doctor told my mum to give him little pieces of food in a lunchbox and have him carry it around. That's how he ate for months. Back up to the post, OP gives us an edit and says, wow, I'm surprised this got so much attention. I'm tossing breakfast at him now. Eggs, fruit, and toast, but I will post an update after spaghetti time. I don't feel comfortable putting a picture of him on the internet, so you'll just have to use your imaginations. Edit 2. Some people are worried he might choke if I throw food in his mouth. I'm a really bad shot, but I also had to learn baby Heimlich and CPR because his older sister had, or has, such a sensitive gag reflex and choked on food constantly. Like her gag reflex is so bad that she has to have a warning on her chart when she goes to the dentist because she will throw up or gag if you touch the back of her mouth. When he started eating solid food, I didn't want to take any chances, so I also bought a thing called a life vac that apparently sucks objects out of a baby's throat if they're choking. I've never had to use it, but it's right next to his high chair just in case. I appreciate all the concern for my baby though. Thank you for looking out for him. And OP comes back not long after with an update and says, well, spaghetti night was a success, as long as you define success as he ate food. I was surprised that he immediately started eating it without having to play our little game first. I made him a plate with a couple little twirls of pasta, and he started grabbing fistfuls and chowing down right away. He's half Italian, so I guess it's in his blood. After a few good handfuls though, he was ready to play and started whipping noodles at me and my daughter. Because he's an uncoordinated baby though, he's ended up flipping them back onto his own head, which cracked up his sister, and when she laughs, he laughs. To be honest, I didn't end up throwing too much food at him tonight, mostly because he was doing my job for me, but also because I just got caught up in watching my kids play together. He still got ridiculously messy though. Afterwards, I put him right in the tub, but he was like an Italian bath bomb. The water was orange and had all the little flakes of herbs and Parmesan cheese, so I had to drain it and start again. While I gave him a bath, my husband started the task of cleaning up the high chair and its surroundings. He shouted, "How did he get the spaghetti in the lights?" Apparently, there were noodles in the light thing that hangs down above our table. I forget what it's called. There was some on the wall, but mostly just on the floor, and on the baby. All in all, it was totally worth it. Fireball Player says, "Nah, I'm gonna lose sleep trying to figure out how we got food on the chandelier." Busy Turnip says, "Thanks for the update. That sounds absolutely adorable. The Italian bath bomb gave me a good chuckle. You sound like a great mom." OP replies, "Thank you so much. That means a lot to me because my own mum disowned me. Most days I feel like I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't even have any frame of reference because I never had a good mum to show me. I've just been trying to do the opposite of whatever she did, like feeding your kids. But how to do it right is still kind of a struggle." Mighty Pitchfork says, quote, "If you can define success as he ate food, as a parent, yes, this is success." And Tearzol replies, 100%. Lost track of the number of special meals I've made our toddler that he's just noped out of. Now he just eats what we eat with some tweaks. That was a good little mood booster to end today's episode, huh, guys? You love to see it, you love to hear it, and you don't love having spaghetti up in your chandelier, but what can you do? That is the price for happiness sometimes. If you guys have any stories to share similar to this one, I'd love to see them down in the comments below. But yeah, all's well that ends well with that one, huh? Would I be the asshole if I go to a concert while my husband is in the hospital? My husband's been in the ICU for over 50 days from complications of a surgery. I have been by his side literally every single day, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. since he's been here, and I took a leave from my job to do so. We are financially okay. This has been a very tumultuous hospital stay with many complications. He is finally at a place where he is stable, but due to his surgical site, he's still in the ICU. There's a band coming to town in a month that's been my favorite since middle school, and they don't tour very often. It's kind of a big deal that they're coming through. My plan would be to hang out with him during the day and then go to the concert at night. I would still go to see him the next day. Of course, if he isn't doing well, I would give my tickets to someone and stay with my husband. I guess I feel guilty enjoying myself when he is stuck in the hospital. Would I be the asshole if I go? Edit. I wanted to clarify some things again because some people keep asking and commenting the same things. 1. I am happily married and do not plan on effing cheating on my husband at this show, Jesus Christ. 2. I will only go if my husband is stable. If he is not, my tickets will go to a friend. 3. The concert is after visiting hour's end. 4. We don't like the same music, so he will not be jealous or have FOMO. 5. I bought the tickets. Thanks to everyone who replied. I will be masking up and staying in the back not to be super involved with the crowd. And 6. It's Marky Ramone, not Taylor Swift. OP, when told to be safe, wear a mask so she doesn't bring COVID back to the unit. I plan on masking and standing in the back where it isn't so crowded, and honestly, if I start to feel worried about it, I might not even go. It really depends on how my husband is doing. He may even be at an LTAC by then. Fingers crossed. Has she spoken to her husband about the concerts? OP says, I just did. He can't talk yet, as he has a tracheostomy, but I told him the band was coming and asked if he'd mind. And he shook his head no and gave me a thumbs up. When told to go but repay her husband when he's healthy, OP says, I actually have a vacation fund I've been throwing money into, so when he's better, he gets to choose where we go. I should have mentioned we don't like the same music, so he wouldn't want to go to this show anyway. Amers says, I'm literally sitting in a hospital right now. Go to the concerts, not the asshole. What's happening with your husband is unfortunate, but a few hours to decompress yourself after spending something like 1,000 hours in the hospital when you're not even the sick one, you need your time too, my dear. I say it again, go to the concerts. PM What Makes You Happy says, reading the title, I was taken aback. However, once I read 50 Days, and that you're going with your sister, I was taken back in a different way. As a former caregiver, I beg you to go easy on yourself. Go and enjoy yourself. You not only need it, but you deserve it. You have a good plan to still be there. I assure you that he understands. Just go easy on yourself, please. And Tishes says, not the asshole. You will have been spending almost all of your time, for about 80 days by then, sitting in the hospital with him. That is a very emotionally draining experience. I've only had to do the ICU campout for a few days with my partner, and even that beat me down. You need to let him know what is going on, and that you need to have just one evening of doing something that reminds you that there is a world outside of the hospital room walls. Be ready to tell him all about it. He's going to be very cabin crazy after that much time in the hospital. Couldn't agree more, and if I was in his shoes, I'd want you to go as well because, 80 days in the hospital is a bit insano. You are absolutely doing the right thing by your husband in this instance. He's given you the thumbs up. Obviously, he couldn't say it, but you have all the permission you need. I understand why you would feel guilty about this one because on the surface, it doesn't present itself too well, does it? But really, I think you should stop beating yourself up so much and let yourself have this one night to go experience Marky in all his glory. With that, I say not the arsehole. OP comes back with an update and says, quick update on my husband. He's doing well. He was sent to an LTAC, long-term acute care facility, about a month and a half ago and was weaned off the ventilator within a week. He still has his track, but is only on oxygen. He's had a few bumps in the road, but overall, he's getting stronger every day. I haven't told him about this post yet, but I do plan to show him all the well wishes that he received. My sister and I made it to the concert. We stayed all the way in the back as to not be in the crowd and really enjoyed the show. Marky was awesome as usual, and it was surreal seeing him drum to songs that he helped create back in the day. The Ramones are my all-time favorite band of all time ever, so it was just really cool to see him live. All in all, thank you everyone for pushing me to take some time for myself. My husband was very excited for me to go to the show, and I showed him videos and pictures the next day. He's just the sweetest man, and I really am lucky to have him in my life. Contribution for a friend says, "Good news about your husband. Sending all the good vibes and positive energy at his recovery. Glad you and your sister made it without any turmoil. Seems that improved your mental health and gave you more energy to keep up. Keep updating. Hopefully it will be about your husband going home." OP says, "He's got some hard months ahead of him filled with lots of hard work, but I'm really hopeful that he's going to recover. I got a call from the hospital today saying that they helped him into a chair and he stood with a walker, with 2 PT nurses helping, and I cried. He hasn't put weight on his feet in over 3 months, and I'm just so proud of him for always trying and working hard." Grand de Bazaar says, "Caretaker fatigue is very real. It's good she took a little time out for herself to rejuvenate. They seem like a lovely couple." Pippin says, "I used to be an ICU RN. It is so emotionally taxing to have a loved one in this situation. OP needs to take care of themselves. I used to tell family members they should take care of themselves and treat themselves while their loved one is in the ICU. Your loved one is going to need you more when they transfer to the floor, LTAC, or home. Things are going to get more intense when he doesn't have an ICU RN anymore. Take your peace where you can." And that goes for all of you. Please take your peace where you can. It's amazing to see so many stories of honest and transparent communication winning the day. Obviously, not all situations are going to be solved that way, but it makes a lot of them a hell of a lot easier to navigate when you're just honest with your partner. Thank you for sharing your story with us, OP, and I'm glad that it all worked out so well. Here's hoping that his journey to full recovery is swift and with as little bumps in the road as possible. What do you guys think of this one? I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below. With that said, let's get to the next story. So this one's by user Raising Jack. It was posted in the Reddit Bureau of Investigation subreddit, titled, "My elderly mum is on hospice, and her new friend gives me a bad vibe. So I cannot for the life of me figure out why I feel like this, but all of my spidey senses are tingling on this woman. Here is a bit of background. My 40 female, elderly mum, 70 female, has been ill for quite some time and is on hospice. She was living in an independent living place where it was all elderly people in apartment-type units. She's been living there for about 6 or 7 months and has made a few casual old people friends, but mostly kept to herself, or so I thought. A couple of weeks go by and my boys and I were visiting my mum, as we live right down the street and visit often, when a woman walks up to us with my mum. I extended my hand to introduce myself to this woman when she dismissed the handshake and instead went in for a hug and said, 'Oh, I only do hugs for family, and we're pretty much family.' Okay, a little weird coming from someone who I've never met before and also never even heard a single mention of her, but I pretty much brush it off, thinking to myself that she's probably just really lonely or something. I asked my mum about this new friend, and she just says that they met there at the old people place, and she's been a really good friend to her. Great. I love when my mum has friends. It's important to have friends. But this woman just keeps giving me weird vibes, and I can't pinpoint why. A few things that seem odd to me. 1. My mum's moving to a more traditional apartment complex this weekend, and this new friend liked the new apartment complex so much that she decided to move to the same place as well. Her apartment isn't ready yet, but she'll be moving to the same complex as my mum next month. 2. She apparently bought my mum's dog a "I have the world's best auntie" sweatshirt for Christmas. They had known each other for maybe 2 months at that point. 3. She called the other day to, I don't really know why, I guess to give me her phone number and more formally introduce herself to me. She talked about doing a lot of caretaking stuff for my mum. "Oh, I can manage her medications for her if you want." Red flag, red flag. So I replied that while I appreciate the offer, there's a lot of controlled medications, and hospice prefers to keep minimal people involved in the medicine stuff, and that taking on caretaking responsibilities for a friend can get exhausting, so it might be best for them to just focus on being friends rather than her wearing herself out trying to take care of her. She immediately went to my mum and made it sound like I was shit-talking my own mum, saying how she's just an exhausting person, blah blah. When I confronted the new friend about going to my mum and relaying our private conversation in a totally twisted way, the friend lied and said that my mum had grabbed her phone and then read all the text messages. It was over the phone and not at all via text messages. When I pointed out that there were no texts, she just kind of stumbled, and I dropped it because I knew that it wouldn't go anywhere. And 4, every time I talk to my mum on the phone, I can hear this woman telling her what to say or adding comments in, and none of it is outwardly worrisome things, but I feel like I can't have any conversation with just my mum. I'm a very trusting person who generally tries to see the best in people, and this woman has not given me any concrete reasons to doubt her intentions, and has in fact been very friendly and polite to me in all of our interactions. Nonetheless, I can't shake this feeling that there is something wrong here. I sat my mum down yesterday and had a conversation with her about my feelings towards this new friend, and she didn't get defensive at all. But she disagreed with me and said that the new friend is just being kind in offering to help with stuff because she knows that my mum is not the most organized of people and could use the help. I begged my mum to please just be cautious and to take the friendship slow and to keep it simply as a friendship and let me, her actual family, handle caretaking stuff. Despite no changes in medications, my mum's been more confused lately and comes across to me like she's overtaken medication, but I only give her 1 dose at a time and the rest is locked up at all times, so it isn't me. But just to be safe, since she's more confused lately, I took my mum's credit and debit cards so that no one can take advantage of her financially. Reddit, please help me figure out what this woman would have to gain in coming between my mum and I if it isn't medication or money. I don't know how to do a background search, or if it's legal for any random person to do. But I did look this new friend up on a couple of websites, and all I learned from that is that she has a lot of also known as names, but I can't find anything else. I'll pay for a background search if anyone has a recommendation for good ones. We're in California. Does any of this raise red flags to anyone else, or am I just being too overprotective of my mum on this? Oh, I almost forgot. I called one of my mum's oldest and closest friends the other day and asked her if she met this new friend, and if so, what was her impression. She said, "Honestly, I don't know why I feel like this, but I just get a bad feeling about her. I just feel like she's up to no good." Hearing this made me feel better, in that I'm not the only one to pick up on something, but I don't know what, if anything, to do about it all. As always, OP, trust your guts, and trust your friend's gut there as well. If she thinks she's up to no good, she's definitely not. She has to be taking the controlled medications, and she has to be taking money somehow, some way. People don't just move apartment complexes all willy-nilly like that to the exact location of another elderly person. That's very weird. That's a gigantic red flag. I'd be watching her if I was you, in any way possible. Starkville says, "Oh, hell nah. This lady's up to something. Probably money. Please make sure your mother hasn't signed anything giving this woman power of attorney. I'd probably hire a former law enforcement private investigator and check her out. Sometimes they can relay a warning too. I'm tempted to tell you to make a huge stink and make a lot of noise at her to leave your mother alone. If she knows you're onto her and you're going to be combative, she might back off and find someone else to glom onto." Gecko Tat Girl says, "Yes, a private investigator with a law enforcement background is a great idea. Even though OP's mum doesn't appear to have control over her own money, this woman could try to steal her apartment or other property that she may own. I find it extremely suspicious that this woman has decided, on a whim, to move into the same complex as mum. Like, who does that? Not to mention, it's extremely fishy that her apartment isn't ready. Is there really an apartment? Or is she next going to need to move in with mum temporarily because her apartment isn't ready, but she had to move out of her old one? I see that coming." OP says, "Exactly what I thought. I told my mum that no way in hell is this woman moving in temporarily or otherwise. She agreed, but I'm gonna have the apartment complex change the keys just to be safe. Because, oh get this, my mum's key for the new apartment just mysteriously vanished. The friend blames it on my mum being so goofy and losing things all the time, which is true, she does, but my mum can't get that key off the ring herself. Friend had no reply to that one. OP then comes back with an update and says, "Thank you so much for all of the responses and heartfelt advice. I'm so sorry to have been MIA for so long after I originally posted, but it's just been a lot. I need to take a beat to take it all in and deal with the punches from real life that kept coming my way." Immediately after I posted last, I went to talk with my mum. I explained my concerns, and she agreed to 2 cameras that I put up in her apartment. On moving day, I was out of the apartment for a few minutes taking my kids back to my house when I logged onto the camera app to test out the settings. I overheard my mum and a friend talking about me. It was not very nice, and very much seemed like the friend was just teeing things up to come between my mum and I, and my mum was playing right into it. The friend, I'll just call her Fran to make it easier, was gone when I got back to the apartment, but I got into it with my mum. I was crying, telling her how hurtful it is to hear my own mother participating in a negative conversation about me after everything that I do and have done for her. She cried, I cried, it was awful. But at the end, I had at least convinced her that Fran was up to no good. My mum agreed to create some distance between her and Fran, and she immediately told Fran that her behavior towards me was not going to fly any longer, and all talk of anything to do with me was off limits. Fran seemed to understand and blamed her behavior towards me on some flimsy excuse that I didn't buy for a second. All was calm for a week or so, when one morning I called my mum to check in on her, only to find out that she was out with Fran running errands. When I pushed for more information, I uncovered that Fran had taken my mum to the bank so that my mum could obtain a new credit card. Fran very much knew that I had taken my mum's debit card, with my mum's blessing, because my mum was having episodes of increased confusion and wasn't aware of who or what she was spending money on, because my mum had forgotten that she had given me her previous debit card. That was the final straw for me. That night, I sent Fran the following text message. "Hi Fran. Mum told me about you guys going to the bank today to get a card, and I just wanted to let you know that I know my mum appreciates your friendship, but that I do not appreciate your getting yourself involved in things that you have no business being involved in. Mum and I have her finances under control between the two of us, and we do not need any assistance getting her squared away, no matter how well-meaning. She's asked me to take her card again, the new one, and has put me as the main account holder so that I can be sure that she has access to what she needs, but that no one else does. I want to believe that you're coming from a sincere place of just wanting to help my mum, but it complicates friendships greatly when you get into financial territory. I handle all of my mum's finances and medical stuff, and it's working for us that way. My mum very much appreciates having you as her friend, but she doesn't need a caretaker. I've got that covered. If you sincerely want to be her friend, you need to take 10 giant steps back and check yourself regarding how you're coming across to me. Because from my perspective, it very much looks like you are dancing precariously close to the elder abuse line. And I'm sure that you wouldn't want me to get the authorities involved here, but that's exactly what will happen if things continue down this path. Fran responded with some bullshit reply akin to, "Oh my word, I would never take advantage of anyone, and I just wanted to help your mum, blah blah blah. Oh, and I think that you and I have gotten off on the wrong foot, which is my fault, but I'd like to start over again. More blah blah blah." I never replied to Fran further, and she has, shockingly, not really reached out to my mum since. I believe she is due to move into the apartment complex this weekend though, so we shall see if she pops back up out of the woodwork. I think she understands that I see through her attempts to come between my mum and I, and that she'll need to focus her efforts to scam people somewhere else. I notified my mum's hospice nurses and her social worker as well. I also bought a really super cool medication dispenser. I won't name it because I'm not plugging anything. that is locked and syncs up to an app so that I get notified every time it dispenses a medication. That made me feel much better about Fran not having any access whatsoever to my mum's prescriptions, but the trip to the bank showed me exactly what Fran was after. I notified the bank that if Fran is with my mum, they had to contact me immediately. All in all, I think most of you are correct. Fran was using my mum for money, or she was trying to, but luckily I caught it before much damage was done. I think I've made my position on Fran clear to her, which is why she is staying away. I think I still need to contact the independent living facility about my concerns with Fran because, I swear I'm not making this up, my mum says that Fran is going to be working at the independent living facility after she moves out, and I don't want her being in a position to take advantage of anyone else. OP then comes back 7 months later with the latest updates. So my mum is still on hospice and doing okay, all things considered. She has her good and her bad days, but she's been mostly lucid lately, and I'm grateful for that. Fran's been mostly MIA, thank goodness, ever since I told her, in no uncertain terms, to beat it. The only time I've heard from her since then was when my mum's phone wasn't working, and Fran called me and left a message wanting to know if my mum was okay. I left her on read. So that told me that my mum hasn't cut her out completely, although she tells me she has. But I have, with my mum's blessing, taken control of any avenue that Fran could possibly use to take advantage of my mother. I alerted the hospice nurses and social worker, and I had let Fran know that I had done that as well. My mum also finally made some better friends who live nearby, and they also help keep an eye on her for me. I didn't go to the police, as I didn't feel that I had a case to do so, but I did let Fran know that I wouldn't hesitate to do so if given reason. If Fran comes back around my mum, or gives me any reason to think something's up, I'll update you all to let you know. But as of now, my mum is safe, I handle all her medication as well as her finances, so no one can weasel their way in to try to take anything at all away from my mum. Thank you to everyone for your care and concern. Snoo Suggestion says, they want her pills. OP replies, I thought the same thing, which is why I locked them up tight. My mum agreed to a camera right over her dispenser so we can keep eyes on her medication at all times. The machine that I got her is pretty cool too, and alerts me via text if the machine door is ever opened. Not that it could be because it has a passcode on it that my mum doesn't even know, so there's a lot of safeguards in place to ensure that no one gets into any of her stuff at all. Peter says, people like Fran are absolutely disgusting. Anyone who tries to take advantage of an elderly individual deserves to rot in hell. No to Newspeak replies, OP needs to be on alert that this woman doesn't try to access her mum's bank account or sign any documents related to wills or power of attorney. She may be trying to weasel her way into OP's mum's will or take control of her finances. My wife has personal experience of a carer trying to exploit my wife's mother, who is 90 and in a care home. Thank goodness my wife has her mum's finances and power of attorney for medical care and such locked down tight. The number of people targeting the elderly in care homes is disgusting. Yeah, I've had a close proximity experience with something like that, where a friend of the family had his auntie targeted by the Catholic Church, in which a priest had convinced this elderly lady to sign over all of her remaining assets to the church. I don't know how they did it, and I don't know how no one else was privy to it, but it happens. And it's very much scary, because then you have to go to court, and even if you go to court, you lose a lot of that money to these powerful entities. I feel like that's kind of the price we pay for people not visiting their parents enough or keeping tabs on their parents that are in elderly care facilities. And these people know that. They will absolutely take advantage. Regardless, thank you for sharing your story with us, OP. I'm glad that things went well and that you got on top of it before Fran could do any damage. You are a saint, and thank you for sharing that story once again. What do you guys think of this one? Let me know down in the comments. Let's move on to our next story. Okay, so this one was posted by a throwaway account, titled, My boyfriend, 30 male, has a close female friend, 34 female, who blatantly dislikes me, 29 female, and makes no secret of it. I've reached a stage where it's her or me. How can I confront my boyfriend? So I've been with my boyfriend for 3 years, and we share an apartment. He has a female friend, Nell, and they were friends for years before I came along. I had no issue with their closeness. I have male friends, and I knew that I'd be a hypocrite to leap to judgments. But at this point, I feel like I'm justified in thinking the way that I do about her. The first time I met her, it was extremely obvious that Nell didn't like me. She came into the bar all excited to see my boyfriend before noticing me. Her entire demeanor changed. She took my hand and dug her nails into my skin before ignoring me for the rest of the night. She even seemed upset at one point that I took the seat beside my boyfriend and quietly left halfway through the evening without saying goodbye. Love me an Irish goodbye. It's the best way to not say goodbye. So it's safe to say that my first impression of her wasn't good, but I tried to reason with myself that not everyone gets along, and I don't need to be friends with my boyfriend's friends. However, as time passed, it became really clear that Nell's attitude towards me wasn't improving. She had a way of openly mocking me in front of groups of people, making side comments, or loudly joking about my voice or appearance. My boyfriend would stand there and say nothing, and after the fact, when I asked him about it, he'd say that he hadn't noticed. She'd also make a show of us hugging him hello and goodbye, and not me. She would mix that kind of stuff in with smiles and basic politeness so that it was tough to articulate exactly what she had done. I felt very much like I was back in high school. From that point on, I basically decided that I didn't need to have someone like that in my life, so I just stopped going to things that she was at. I haven't seen her in about a year. My boyfriend still regularly sees her, and they text often. I'm now at the stage where I fully believe that they've either dated in the past or have something going on now. I tried gently bringing this up, but he denies they ever dated and makes me feel like I'm being jealous and bitter by asking. I end up suppressing those feelings before something brings them up again. I've reached the end of my tether with it. The final straw for me came the other day when my boyfriend left his phone open and I saw a text exchange between the two. Nell had sent him a heart emoji and my boyfriend had written something about how he was thinking of her.
Oh, hell no. What's going on with that, brother?
I know I should have said something then and there, but I felt numb and decided to go to bed. I'm trying to work out how to handle this. Is it possible nothing's going on here? It's something I've tried arguing in my head, but then something else pops up that makes me doubt it. Maybe friends do just send hearts, and I'm making this up because I don't care for Nell.
No, don't gaslight yourself. Please, no, don't do it, OP.
I don't want that to be the case, but I'm basically at a point where I feel he either has to tell me the truth and restrict contact with Nell, or else I don't feel like I can maintain the relationship. I feel constantly disrespected, and I want something to change, but I don't know how to go about it. Any advice would be so welcomed. You need an ultimatum, OP. You need to drag his ass for this, obviously inappropriate relationship he has going on with Nell. No, it's not normal for him to send hearts to someone else while he's in a relationship. Especially when you've brought up multiple times that you don't like this girl, you don't trust her, you get bad vibes, and you've avoided being in her proximity for a year. He is failing the ignorance or malice test. This goes far beyond ignorance. This is now malice territory, and he is intentionally pitting you two against each other. That is what I believe, not the asshole. Chonkosaurus Rex says, to be honest, I don't think there's a point in giving him an ultimatum, as I don't think he would choose you. Or if he did, he would resent you for it and make you feel even more crazy. He never noticed how Nell treats you and never calls her out on it. When you point it out, he makes you feel like you're jealous and crazy instead of working with you and implementing healthy boundaries. You have to repress your feelings about their relationship because of how he makes you feel whenever you try to bring it up. That is not a partner that will choose you because he never has. He chooses Nell. Whenever Nell hurt your feelings, he chose to endorse her actions by not standing up for you. Whenever you point something out, he chose to protect Nell and make you feel like you were jealous and bitter. He has always been in her corner, endorsing and enforcing her actions, even when she is hurting your feelings. I would personally skip the ultimatum and just leave. And Connie says, anyone who lets someone mock you in public isn't your friend. Your problems are bigger than her. He will still be the person who let this happen to you. Also, you don't trust him. You think he might be hiding a past or current relationship. This also won't be solved. Trust your gut. Following that, OP comes back with an update and says, First, I'd like to sincerely thank everyone for the kind comments. I didn't expect so many responses, and I appreciate them all. I want to provide everyone with an update because a lot has happened. A few days ago, after a lot of tearful soul-searching, I decided the best thing for me would be to walk away from the relationship. I sat my boyfriend down, and I talked to him about it. I explained that I always felt like the third wheel in my own relationship, and that for my own happiness, I didn't want to be in a relationship that made me feel that way anymore. I gave examples to him that I did in my original post, such as his lack of boundaries with Nell and his disinterest in standing up for me whenever she mocked me. I also said my trust in him had been eroded to the point where I felt unsure of what I really was to him. I told him I still cared about him and wanted him to be happy, but that I wanted to be happy too. My boyfriend sat silently for a while before asking, "So, you're jealous of Nell?"
I'm gonna punch you in the face. What was that? I hate you.
I felt like he barely had processed anything that I just said, and when I tried clarifying, he got defensive and told me that he was allowed female friends.
Oh my god, the bar is in hell. It's in hell. You can't convince me otherwise.
I could tell that he wanted to turn this into an argument, and since my mind was already made up and I'd said what I wanted, I ended the conversation, and he played a computer game and acted like I wasn't there as I packed my things and left. Boy boss move. I've been staying with my best friend, who is amazing and always so supportive. We're actually looking into sharing a place officially. I burst into tears on her doorstep, and we hugged it out before having a movie night with pizza and some wine. It felt really therapeutic, like a weight was lifted off my shoulders. My family has been amazing too, rallying around and taking me out for little meals and stuff. I even got 1 or 2 sweet messages from my boyfriend's friends saying they were sorry and that they fully understood my point of view, which is interesting. I imagined that would be the end of it, but the next morning, I woke up to messages from a number that I didn't know. It was Nell. I honestly didn't think that she would contact me, so to see her walls and walls of text in my inbox was a shock. Let me run down some of the things she said. She repeatedly insisted that she never bullied me and said that she had no idea where that came from. She said that I'd always seemed cold towards her, so I tried to make these little jokes to break the ice. Openly mocking someone is an interesting method, but I digress. Lastly, she told me that I was making things up by suggesting that she ever had a thing with my ex. They were just friends. She finished with a passive-aggressive apology that I'd ruined my own relationship by being jealous and listening to voices in my head. I didn't respond to her venom or try to get the last word. I know she wanted to repeat her tried-and-true method of hitting out at me and enjoying my reaction, so I didn't give her one. I've been focusing on other things to start building my self-esteem and happiness back. My ex has not tried to contact me since I left, and I'm glad. Frankly, I think him and Nell are perfect for each other. I'm well and truly done with this, and I'm so excited for new things in my life. My friend and I are making arrangements to officially have a place together, and I actually got promoted at work today. I feel like it was a little hug from the universe. All in all, things are looking bright. So to end things, I want to thank everyone again for the messages. I think hearing your opinions, as well as getting all of my thoughts out in a post, are what really opened my eyes and allowed me to leave. I finally feel as though I'm making myself the priority, and it feels pretty great. Miss Behaven says, "You did the right thing by not responding to her. It was a rather creeper move for him to give her your phone number to message in the first place. Go out and do the things that make you happy." OP replies, "Yeah, the only way she would have gotten it is through him. My best friend even suggested they probably wrote those texts together. I feel like they both just wanted to turn it into a big argument and play the victim, so I'm glad that I didn't pursue that with them. I don't care and just want to be happy. Thank you." Top Put says, "Literally the best thing you could do was let her twist in the wind after those texts, and you did it. Good for you. Those two deserve nothing from you." And OP replies, "Thank you. Yup, I imagine her reeling that she didn't get a single word in response to her mountains of text. Never replied to a stupid yapper, OP. Good for you. Those two scumbags deserve each other for the year of misery that they put you through, and I'm glad that you didn't respond. Oh my god, imagine the shit show if you did. I feel like it was almost guaranteed that he was cheating on you with her, and it's going to be so funny when he cheats on her with someone else, or she cheats on him because, that's just what happens in these situations. As always, OP, I hope that future is looking brighter for you. Thank you for sharing your story with us. And you guys, what do you think about this story and everything else before? I'd love to know your thoughts, your piece, your own stories in the comments below. Let me know. Am I the asshole for being angry that my sister/maid of honor tried on my wedding dress? I, 24 female, am getting married to Sean, 25 male. Sean and I live together. My sister Carly, 21 female, has a key to our apartment. The Sunday before last, Carly was to come to my apartment so she and I could talk. I reached home early, and I saw Carly and her boyfriend Travis, 23 male, in my living room. Carly looked sweaty, but I didn't pay much attention to it at the time. Travis left so my sister and I could talk. After the talk, I went into my bedroom. My closet door wasn't fully closed. I opened it to see that my wedding dress wasn't how I left it. I was already angry, but when I smelt my dress, it smelt sweaty and I was beyond angry. I stormed back into my living room and I asked Carly if she had tried on my wedding dress. She admitted to it immediately and said she only wanted her boyfriend to see how she looked in my dress. I told her to get out and that she'll no longer be my maid of honor. Carly was crying as she left. Later that day, our mum Barb, 47 female, came to my apartment. She was asking me to forgive my sister and to reinstate her as my maid of honor. I told my mum I can forgive Carly, but I also state that my sister will not be the maid of honor. My mum tried to make the argument that my sister used to wear my clothes all the time and that she just misses her big sister. I told my mum that Carly either needs punishment or mental health care. My mum tried plenty of other arguments, but I shut them all down. She finally said that my sister loves me and that I'll break her heart if I refuse to let her be maid of honor. I do love my sisters and our parents, and I'm now wondering if this was a big enough deal to fire her as my maid of honor. Am I the asshole? Edit. What a lot of you said freaked me out. I saw that Carly was online, so I messaged her. I eventually managed to ask her if she had sex in my wedding dress, and her response was, "Please don't be mad." Yes. Her reasons were that it was fun and exciting. She promised to replace the dress, but I messaged back that I don't want her at the wedding at all. Second edit. I had communicated with my mum over messages, but then she came over to talk to me in person. She said she did not know that my sister had sex in my dress, and then she decided herself to not come to my wedding because my sister isn't coming. She said she's very disappointed in Carly, but she can't come without Carly. Thank you for the comments who gave me the perfect term to describe the situation. Carly is the golden child. Genuinely so disgusting that Carly would do something like that, and then even more disgusting that their mum defends it and says, well, if she's not going to the wedding, I'm not going. What a stupid hill to die on, genuinely. What a good way to fracture your relationship with both of your children, choosing sides, and then taking the side of the golden child that is the one that caused all of the problems. I really don't know why parents choose to die on hills like this, because what is the point that they're trying to make here? Oh yeah, it's always cool for one of my children to do the most egregious shit to the other child, and I'm always going to take their side no matter what. A+ parenting right there, gotta hand it to her for that. Hamster Family says, not the asshole. Ask your sister to pay for dry cleaning. OP replies, thank you for commenting first. I do wonder if other people will disagree with your not the asshole. I already got the dress cleaned, but I could ask my sister for the money that I already paid to get it clean. Leah Jadis says, this isn't a pair of shoes. This is a once-in-a-lifetime event with a dress that you would wear once. Is nothing sacred? Your sister is a piece of trash, and your mum ignores her bad behavior and puts the responsibility of emotional maturity on you. So manipulative. Not the asshole here. OP replies, in my head, that's why it's different than the other times that she wore my clothes. It's a dress for one of the most important events in my life. And she got it dirty. OP says, that too. A woman can wear a dress without getting it sweaty. Cece Has a Problem says, she was sweaty. The dress was sweaty. She wanted boyfriend to see her in it. Just what did she do in that dress, I wonder? Ick. Burn it with fire, not the asshole. And OP says, I see what you're hinting at, and I never considered it until now. OP then comes back with an update and says, thank you to all who commented on the OG post. My mother-in-law got me a new dress. I ended up doing the unconventional thing of asking my mother-in-law to be my maid of honor. As for my sister, I am taking a break from her. She needs to be less codependent on me, and I need to be less codependent on her. I love her, and I feel sorry for her. My sister will not be allowed at my wedding. No, OP, she needs to be less of a freak. That is deranged freak behavior from her. At the least, she needs to be tarred and feathered. For my mother and dad, I never want to see them again. They are not allowed at my wedding. My parents are the reason that my sister and I are so messed up. Growing up, my mother humiliated me and my sister about our weight, skin, and all sorts of things. My mother had actually forced me to wear her wedding dress when I was a teen, to motivate me to lose weight.
Jesus Christ.
My mum did the same to my sister. I have an appointment to see a psychiatrist this Saturday. My sister promised to get therapy. My sister and her boyfriend are still together, and their relationship is better. I wish my sister well. I'm excited to get married in January. Thank you all who are interested enough to read the update. Evil Sloth of Doom says, you did the right thing. I hope your mother-in-law can be the woman your mum should have been. It's truly disgusting how you've been treated. OP says, my mother-in-law is such a kind, caring woman. I'm so lucky to have her. Low Peanut says, I just read your first post, and I don't understand how having sex wearing your sister's wedding dress in her home is being codependent. It's just being disrespectful. No boundaries. It's sick. Your mother-in-law is an angel. Your sister should be the one to pay for your new dress. Also, take your house key from her to be sure that she can't do something like that in the future. I hope you'll have an amazing wedding. You made the right decision about uninviting your family. Quotes, I eventually managed to ask her if she had sex in my wedding dress. Her response, please don't be mad. Yes. Yeah. No. The final hex says, I was immediately wondering why she was so sweaty after just trying on a dress. I just wanted my boyfriend to see me in it, rip it off me and bang me on your bed was something I was not expecting. So Totally Tired replies, I mean, it doesn't sound like he ripped it off her at all. Poku says, you know, sometimes these posts make me think if I'm a bit too hung up on stuff, since I would fully cut someone off for simply disrespecting my wedding dress with all the added context, let alone have sex in it. But then I realize I don't care, and I'm not going to sacrifice my peace of mind to be a bigger person or a family person. So if I'm an irredeemable asshole, so be it. I completely understand the pick your battles kind of mentality that Poku has about the situation here. But I do think there is behavior that goes so beyond acceptable that you should be hung up on. I feel like this is a situation where it's so far past the bounds of normal, you absolutely should be hung up on it and you should sacrifice your peace of mind. You shouldn't be the bigger person. You should go lower than them. Because what kind of mentality is it that it's like, you know what, it's absolutely fine that she had sex in your wedding dress. Okay, mum, how about I just go have sex in all of your clothes in your house and we'll see how you feel about that one because you gave her a pass for this. Why not me having a pass for having sex in all of your clothes? Interesting to see people's reactions to insane hypotheticals. I digress. Cutting off the parents, absolutely support that one. Not cutting off the sister, but giving her a pass for her behavior because of your trauma that you went through with your parents. Hard for me to digest, given that I want her cut off too, but not my circus, not my monkeys, OP. If that's a relationship you can salvage, then absolutely go for it. I respect it. Thank you for sharing your story with us. And now I turn this to you guys. What do you think about this story? Let me know down in the comments below. With that said, it's time for our next story. This one was posted by a deleted account, titled, I, 23 female, have always had intense, toxic relationships. Finally in a healthy relationship with a great guy, 26 male, and have no idea if what I'm feeling is normal. So I've never had a healthy relationship. My first and longest relationship was a codependent mess, which had insane highs and crashing lows. I deeply loved him, obsessed over him, even though in hindsight he treated me terribly, and of course it ended disastrously, taking me years to get over. I've tried dating other guys since then, but either they weren't interested and just used me for sex, or I'd realized that I was just using them for validation and that nothing ever lasted. I eventually gave up on dating, and up until recently, I'd been happily single for about a year. A few weeks ago, I met someone at a uni class and we really hit it off. We were just friends initially, but eventually started dating. We're getting pretty intimate, and I genuinely enjoy being around him, but I'm not really sure if I like him that much, or if I'm forcing it. But because of my terrible dating history, I've realized that I actually have no idea what it feels like to be in a healthy relationship. The thing is, he's smart and funny and super nice and actually likes me. He genuinely listens to me. He cares about my interests and remembers things I've told him, and he doesn't play arbitrary games, all of which I'm not used to in the slightest. However, I don't feel like I like him as much as I should. I certainly do like him, and I love hanging out with him, and the romantic, intimate stuff is pretty good, but compared to past relationships, as disastrous as they were, this one feels almost boring in comparison. I don't crave to be with him. I don't get wild fireworks when he kisses me. I don't feel my heart flutter when I get a text from him. I do feel a strong sense of affection that's almost a weird mix of close friendship and this guy is a dork and I really like kissing him. And for the first time ever, I almost prefer just hanging out in the kitchen and making dinner together than to being intimate, which is totally opposite to past relationships that were mostly built around sex. So I've been wondering how much of that lack of intensity is due to him not being right for me, or if it's because he is right for me. Maybe I don't get fireworks when we kiss because he freely kisses me all the time without making me work for it. Maybe my heart doesn't flutter when he texts because I know that he'll always text back without making me wait for hours on end. Maybe I don't constantly think about him and crave his presence because I know he'll be there when I need him. Maybe the intensity isn't there because I don't have to fight for his attention or walk on eggshells or agonize about him not being there for me. I know I feel a sense of warmth, of contentment when I think about him, and when we're together, there's not really anywhere else I'd rather be. Maybe that's enough. I know it's early days, but he's already expressed a strong interest in me, and I feel like my feelings aren't quite matched to his. Should I be feeling more intensely about him, or is this just what being in a healthy relationship feels like? To me personally, it feels like the intensity of your emotions was linked to how much these people in your past would hold affection from you and then do their best to keep you on a leash. You know, like, you obviously recognize that that is unhealthy, was unhealthy, and you don't want that again. But I think sometimes the best things in life are the boring and mundane. You know they're not going to hurt you, you know what to expect. Sometimes that's just great. I feel like it's exhausting to be dragged through insane highs and crushing lows. For some people, I feel like the contentment and the peace of mind of the boring and mundane can come, naturally. It comes to you instantly. You're not upset with that. And maybe you, OP, are a bit more upset with it because a piece of you misses that thrill and that excitement. I think, in a way, this is what being in a healthy relationship feels like, yes. But if you realize over time that this is not the puzzle piece for you, it's okay to move on from that and find someone else that gives you the feelings that you are looking for. But for me, I'd stick this relationship out because he seems like an absolute catch. Young Moody says, I've been in a similar situation. The first guy I dated after leaving an abusive relationship was lovely and kind and treated me wonderfully. It was weird navigating a partnership that was so starkly different to my prior one, and I even found myself pushing back against his kindness sometimes because it wasn't the sort of love that I was used to receiving. I stayed with him because I felt like I should, even though I never felt those butterflies or excitement that I'd experienced before. In the end, we broke up. I wasn't ready to be in a serious relationship and needed time to heal from the past abuse. But just as importantly, he wasn't the guy that I was meant to be with. 6 years and a few lame relationships later, and I'm now engaged to the love of my damn life. With him, I got everything. The butterflies, the passion, as well as the kindness and respect of a solid relationship. My advice to you, having said all that, don't feel like you need to leave the guy just because it was the right thing for me to do. But don't make the mistake of staying with him just because it's a calm and safe relationship. OP comes back and says, "A few months ago, I wrote about dating an actually stable guy after only having toxic relationships. The post got more traction than I expected, so I figured it might be nice to do an update. Thank you so much to everyone who replied to my post. All the replies really helped. As it turns out, the guy I was seeing found the Reddit post, clicked that it was me, and talked to me about it. Turns out he actually felt the same way in terms of low intensity, but he liked that, and I decided to keep dating him as long as we kept having fun together. Well, I'm happy to say that last week we celebrated being together for 6 months, and that we are quite madly in love with each other." After we talked, I took the advice of some of the commenters and tried to just enjoy my time with him instead of worrying about the depth of my feelings. I soon realized that he's a kind, thoughtful, intelligent person, and we totally get each other. He makes me laugh with the most inane stuff, and he thinks my dumb jokes are funny too. We can talk for hours and hours about just anything at all, and I rarely feel that I have to justify or explain my point of view at all. He just understands me. One of the first times I knew I was really falling in love, we were chatting in bed, and suddenly it was 3 in the morning, and I realized we'd been chatting for 3 hours without a single awkward pause. I've rarely had that with anyone else, and never with a previous boyfriend. I think most of the commenters were right. My other longest relationships were all built around toxic intensity and wild passion, and while this relationship definitely isn't lacking in the bedroom, I'd say it's much more built on a sort of close relationship and respect for each other. It's certainly not as filled with longing and deep passion as other relationships I've had, but honestly, I prefer being with him. I feel like I've not just got someone to go out with or cuddle up to, but a genuine life partner. Someone who supports me, who I can talk to about anything. Someone who makes me want to be a better person. It just took me a while to realize how much better that calmer, more peaceful love is, instead of the roller coaster/intensely toxic relationships. And I almost made the mistake of thinking that it was boring and throwing it away. I really just needed time to get used to dating someone who doesn't play games and displays his affection openly and frequently. We did have some slight issues with communication to start with, mainly me being afraid to bring issues up and suggest things because of other boyfriends overreacting terribly in the past. But after we talked a lot, he's been very supportive and proven himself to be a mature enough adult that he can handle occasional criticism without getting super defensive. It's been really refreshing to be in such a drama-free relationship where we can argue or talk about issues in a really healthy way. Thank you to everyone who replied. You all helped a lot, and I'm really glad I took your advice and didn't just break up with him. I love him a lot, and I can see us being together for a long time. Thanks. Aviator XO says, "I'm currently going through this whole issue myself, and reading both of your posts and the comments has helped me see things differently. I've spent the last 3 weeks trying to decipher if I really have romantic feelings for this man or just seek his friendship. I've been waiting for the spark I usually chase after, which has always ended horribly. Thank you for sharing. You are helping so many other women and men in your position." Bunny36 says, "I think sometimes we all forget what dating is actually for. It's meant to be discovering who another person is over time. Assuming a relationship will be successful based on the initial spark isn't enough, and it's easy to forget that love is more than just that feel-good bit." And Lady Gaither says, "So often the exciting highs can come from a comparison with very hurtful lows. The, 'oh my god, this is incredible,' comes as an after effect of, 'oh my gods, why would you do this to me?' And it makes the good seem so much better. It's not, it's just comparatively better. Your brain says, 'oh hell yes,' when it's been saying 'oh hell no' for a while. At least that's how it was for me. When I finally met people who wanted to be with me, it was boring. But in reality, my normal meter was broken. My sense of self was shattered. I didn't feel like I deserved the good feelings unless I had to work for them. Then I figured out that not everything had to be a fight, and not every kiss had to be passionate. It took a bit to accept that. Good on you for figuring it out earlier than I. Life is both short and long. Finding a good partner is key. Best of luck to you and your person. May it be full of laughter, love, and long conversations without unnecessary drama." Counterpoint, if it didn't have unnecessary drama, then I would be out of a job. But yeah, I do hope that stories like this can help you guys listening to this story if you are going through similar experiences, or it can help shape your perspectives and ability to help friends and family going through similar struggles themselves. Maybe with more knowledge on how people are hurting, why they're hurting, and community advice to kind of bridge the gap between you and them. You can also help those you care about that are struggling with situations like this, that have come from broken relationship after broken relationship and don't know how to cope with normal relationship dynamics. But for me personally, I agree with that. Life is both short and long, and if I'm going to find a partner to go through the shit with me, I'm going to want someone that's not manipulating me as a starting point. And I wish that for all you guys as well. May your lives be full of laughter, love, and long conversations without unnecessary drama. Those are some good words to live by. Thank you for sharing your story with us, OP. I very much appreciate that. And what do you guys think of this one? Let me know down in the comments below. Now let's move on to our next story. This one was also posted by a deleted account, and it's titled, "Am I the asshole for straightening my daughter's hair without my wife's permission? I, male 32, have a 4-year-old daughter. Let's call her Gracie. Gracie is half black, her mother, female 31, being African American. Her mother handled all of Gracie's hair care and taught me how to do simple styles, but even those simple styles were difficult. My wife ended up going on a vacation with her friends to celebrate her friend's birthday, and my mother came over to visit. I hadn't done Gracie's hair in a few days, so it became nappy and unmanageable." Calling your own daughter's hair nappy is insane. You can't be saying that. "When I tried to comb her hair, the comb broke. My mother said that I should just get my daughter a perm so it would be more manageable, so I took her to a salon and got it permed." And you didn't think to call your wife? No, that wasn't a thought? "My wife got home, and when she saw our daughter, she was livid. She screamed at me and then at my mother for even suggesting that, but I think she's overreacting because it's just hair. Then she brought up our wedding. My mother had tried to get my wife to straighten her hair for the wedding, but my wife refused because she wanted her natural hair on her wedding day so she could be as natural as possible. I can see your mother is a bit of a problem. My mother often comments on my wife and daughter's hair, and I agree with my mother. I can see we have a you problem too. But now my wife is telling me that perms chemically burn and damage hair to change the texture and that I damaged our daughter's hair. Now she's thinking of getting our daughter's hair cut so her hair can heal from the damage. But I still think she's overreacting. Besides, I don't want my daughter's hair to be cut. She looks so cute now. Am I the asshole for straightening my daughter's hair without my wife's permission, even though Gracie is my daughter too? Are you having a mental breakdown by chance, OP? Where did this all come from? Your wife goes away for a few days, and instead of calling her like a sane individual would, you decide to go just gung-ho on her hair? This is just weaponized incompetence to the max. Why didn't you call your wife and sort this out? This is so much drama that you've caused that you now decide is a hill to die on. Also, you didn't think at all to call your wife and be like, "Hey, is this a good idea? I know you always handle her hair care because I can't be trusted with it, so what should I do here?" I really find it hard to believe that you're that dumb or that malicious, but I've seen stranger things. Just all around bad decision making from you. You're an asshole for doing that, absolutely. Tools says, "Your daughter is half black. You were married to a black person, and you used the words nappy and unmanageable. Besides that, you sound like you haven't learned how to care for your daughter's hair, nor tried to learn how to care for curly and coily hair. Not to mention, it sounds like you haven't learned to respect your wife's boundaries. You're the asshole. Go watch a couple of videos on curly hair and stop listening to your mum." Creve says, "No black person would straighten their child's hair at such a young age. It's just not done. And for your information, hair isn't just hair in the black community. Furthermore, you knew that your wife was against straightening your daughter's hair. Did you ever ask her why? You were absolutely wrong. Educate yourself and then apologize to your wife and daughter. You're the asshole." Highwood Shady says, "You lost me at nappy hair. What an asshole. And your wife is right. All you did was damage your daughter's hair. And SFJC says, and her self-worth. If OP does not go no contact with that wretched woman, I will personally go and help the wife pack. He thinks his daughter looked cute because her hair now looks whiter. At this point, no contact might not even be enough given that OP is a racist. And what the hell kind of salon does a chemical treatment on a 4-year-old? This post is sickening. So OP comes back to the post with a couple of updates in the form of edits and says, I've read the comments and came to a realization about my marriage and my wife, and now I just feel horrible. My wife's mentioned in passing about her childhood and was always vague about it, but after overhearing a conversation between her and my mother-in-law, I just realized how much I truly messed up. My wife is dark-skinned and tall, and she got bullied for that along with her hair. She went to a predominantly white school in Bogalusa, and that made her hate herself and her looks for a while. My God, my wording was horrible too. My wife is beautiful, and so is my daughter, and their hair is not a problem. I'm the problem, and so is my mother. At least you can admit to that. After hearing my wife's conversations about me and my mother, I realized that my mother is a bully and that I'm just a drone/follower. My mother constantly picked on my wife, and I just stood by and blindly agreed because she's my mum. But that woman who I married is my wife, and I should have protected her from my own ignorance and my mother's ignorance. I took something that she took pride in, and I belittled it. I was too lazy to learn, and I took my mother's advice. Hell, my mother said so many cruel things that I didn't think twice of until reading these comments. She'd always make sure my daughter didn't play outside when she'd go over to her house because she didn't want her to be darker like her mother, and that comment made me uncomfortable, but I took it as a weird joke.
How? How did you take that as a weird joke? That's just straight racism. What's going on? What? No, it's not a weird joke. If it's such a funny, weird joke, why don't you tell everyone how funny the joke is? Go spread it round.
I'm cutting my mother off, and I'm going to apologize to my wife and daughter and start watching hair tutorials again. I'm also going to sign up for a hair braiding class when the pandemic is slowed down once more. God, I'm a horrible husband and father. When my wife is willing to talk, I won't force her, I'll apologize, and if she wants to leave me over this, it'll hurt like hell, but I'll understand. I've just pushed her to the sidelines for so long, and I couldn't even see it. I am the arsehole, the biggest arsehole ever. Edit 2, I just got off the phone with my mother, and my wife listened in on the phone call. I didn't realize she was in the living room with me until she put her hand on my shoulder during the call. My mother is, well, livid. She freaked out on me and threatened to call CPS when I told her that I didn't want her coming around my wife and daughter, and refused to even try to understand what we did wrong. Then I mentioned the damage that the perm could cause to my daughter. I read a small article about a black-owned hair care company about childhood perm horror stories, along with the history behind perms, and I'm just disgusted with myself and my mother. And my mother said my wife was being a drama queen. When I told her that my daughter might need a haircut behind this, she flipped out and said, I won't let my granddaughter look like a bull dye, and I was mortified. I'm gonna take the r/ approach and not say that full word. Can't say that on YouTube. She said she would take my daughter from me and my wife and raise her the way God intended. That caused a screaming match. My wife put her hand on my shoulder in the midst of it and took the phone from me and told my mother if she comes to our home again, the police will be called, and then she hung up. I put our baby to bed and then we talked. My daughter and wife are beautiful, and I don't understand how for the life of me I thought those horrible things. Maybe it was like that SNL sketch, Diet Racism. Hearing those things from your parent and just blindly listening no matter how horrible it sounds. My wife is still mad at me, and rightfully so, but she told me that she isn't leaving me over this. She said that I have a lot to learn, and that if I want this relationship to last, that I need to open my eyes and realize that the world that I live in is different from the one that she lives in, and different from the world our daughter will live in. I'm horrified at myself and horrified at my mother. My father called a few moments ago, but I ignored the call. I'll talk to him in the morning about this. Thank you all for talking some sense into me, and I thanked my wife for staying with me even though she doesn't have to. Tomorrow we're asking our baby girl if she wants a haircut. Knowing her, she'll want to get one like her uncle. He has all these cool designs shaved into his head. If she wants that, then she can have that. She's my world, and I refuse to ever be this ignorant and harmful to her again. Final edits. My wife and I arranged for our daughter to spend the night at my mother-in-law's house, and couples therapy will be in the near future. The comment section have certainly given me many perspectives of how horrible my words and actions are. I won't be doing any more replies or edits because this is a throwaway account. I think that's the right term for this. My mother has called the house multiple times from my sister's phone. My sister is 25 and lives for drama. So now the whole family on my mother's side is blowing up my phone with many mixed opinions, most of which are horrible. It's funny. The only family member whose opinion reflects this comment section's common consensus is the one who was disowned a few months ago. Well, actually that's not funny. It shows just how messed up my family is. Thank you for all these replies, no matter how harsh or mean they might seem. I needed this. Dragonchild says, quote, "It's just hair." I legit gasped. Oh honey, no. I'm just a white woman who's a redhead. I know how central to my identity my hair is, and I'm not a woman of color. Hair is an integral part of black identity, and he's damned lucky he's got a woman willing to forgive and teach his moronic ass. The Blue Ninja replies, hair is central to so many people's identities, especially to certain types of men who suddenly realize they're going bald. Lady also replies, I know we all like to clown on guys trying to mitigate male pattern hair loss. I've done it myself, but let me tell you, that shit is traumatic. My hair started falling out during COVID from stress, and even though I knew it was temporary, and even though I knew that it would grow back, it still really messed with my sense of self and self-esteem. And I'm a person with a buzz cut who has shaved my head bald. I've accidentally melted my hair off with lightener and had to shave color out of my hair. None of it rocked me to the very center of my core, like pulling out handfuls of my own hair in the shower. I can't imagine that it's any easier going through it when genetics rather than stress are to blame. And yeah, I'm gonna round this one out by saying that, thank God, OP's wife was so accepting and understanding of his stupid brain. But sometimes it takes the stupidest of decisions and the most stressful situations to wake you up from whatever ignorance you live in your own life. I can't imagine that it's such an easy pill to swallow realizing just how racist your own family is and how their actions influenced you into being so racist to your own child as well. That would be really jarring, that would be really stressful, that would be even a bit traumatic, dare I say. Glad that it all worked out for OP in the end, glad they're going to couples counseling, and glad that he's cutting his family off, hopefully. Anyway, what do you guys think of this one? I'd love to know down in the comments below. Am I the asshole for telling my stepmother-in-law that I'm glad she can't have children? When my wife was a teenager, her stepmother had health issues that eventually led to a hysterectomy. She and my father-in-law had been trying to conceive prior to that, and she's very open about how painful it was to become unable to have kids. She's been in therapy for years, but this is still a sore subject, so we don't bring it up. During the pandemic, stepmother-in-law became a vegetarian. While I obviously have no problem with that, no one else in the family is, and she tends to get very preachy about it. There is one specific video of cattle being slaughtered and processed that she has sent multiple family members. Because of that preachiness, my wife and I try to avoid having meals with her. I've also been told that she and father-in-law often eat in separate rooms. Anyway, my wife and I attended a wedding about 2 weeks ago. Our regular babysitter cancelled on us last minute, so father-in-law and stepmother-in-law volunteered to watch our kids, 8 male and 5 female. They babysat our children once a few months ago, and things went fine. So my wife and I agreed. The kids were asleep when we returned home. The next day, my daughter was very upset. She barely spoke all morning. When we sat down for lunch, she started crying and refused to eat. We tried to talk to her, but she refused to tell us what was wrong. Eventually, my son told us what happened. We had promised the kids that they could have burgers for dinner. My father-in-law was aware of that, but he apparently fell asleep less than an hour after we left. When it was time for dinner, the kids went to ask stepmother-in-law to make the burgers, and she refused. My son offered to wake father-in-law up, but she said no to that too. She said she would make the kids something else for dinner. When my children started begging for the burgers, stepmother-in-law showed them the cattle video. She apparently told them my wife was secretly against them eating meat, which is why they hesitated to tell us what she'd done. Absolute garbage individual. My wife and I had a talk with our kids and managed to get them to feel better. After they went to bed, we called stepmother-in-law, and she confirmed that she had shown them the video. To say we are both outraged would be putting it lightly. My wife and I immediately told her that we're cutting her off from our kids, and will probably do the same with father-in-law for falling asleep while he was supposed to be babysitting. Stepmother-in-law started trying to defend herself. She told us she was only trying to help, and that we should be making more efforts to get our kids to eat healthy. It only made me angrier. I told her she has no idea how glad I am that she can't have children, because I'd pity the child that would have her as a mother. After that, she hung up on us. Father-in-law has been calling and texting us. He's apologetic for falling asleep, but insists that cutting him and his wife off is an overreaction. He's also angry that I mocked stepmother-in-law's infertility. Apparently she is distraught at what I said, and father-in-law is demanding I apologize to her. Honestly, I don't think I'm the asshole here, but I'm wondering whether I went too far. My wife agrees that it was a low blow that stepmother-in-law deserved to hear, but a low blow nonetheless. Am I the asshole? Edit. Okay, to clarify some things that I haven't already said in the comments, father-in-law and stepmother-in-law babysat at our place, not theirs. I can't believe I have to say this, but I have no problem with vegetarianism. I actually tried to become a vegetarian a few years ago, but couldn't for medical reasons. In stepmother-in-law's case, what I have a problem with is her preachiness. In general, my wife and I have always had a meh relationship with stepmother-in-law, but we never disliked her or treated her poorly. She's made a few comments about introducing vegetarianism to our kids in the past, but never anything this extreme. I'll admit I don't know much about stepmother-in-law's medical history. I only know about the hysterectomy because she didn't react well to either of my wife's pregnancies, and they had to tell me what was going on. We promised the kids the burgers back when they were going to be watched by their usual babysitter. Father-in-law and stepmother-in-law replaced her at the very last minute, and the kids ate chicken the last time they babysat. We didn't plan it. Father-in-law found it in the fridge and cooked it, so we maintained the burgers. I saw the video a few years ago. It's a little under 5 minutes long and is very graphic. Not the worst of those videos, but definitely not suitable for children. From my son's description, I think they watched most of it. I'm more angry about stepmother-in-law lying to my children about their mother than the fact she showed them the video, but the whole situation infuriates me. My wife is angry that her father fell asleep for personal reasons, but we're not certain about cutting him off. We won't budge with stepmother-in-law. Having read most of your comments, I think I'll apologize for what I said about her fertility, but I will maintain everything else. I don't want her near my children ever again. I'll update when I can. Quick message to OP's wife here. A low blow doesn't mean that it wasn't warranted, and it doesn't mean that it was wrong to do that. I think it was actually called for in this instance. Yeah, we should just let the stepmother-in-law get away with traumatizing our children, showing them a video of cattle getting slaughtered and processed. That's a really normal thing to show a 5-year-old girl in order to have her not want to eat burgers. What a normal thing to do. That woman went lower than hell. Any blow to her at this point is nothing in comparison to what she did, and if anything, she deserves 10 more blows for what she did. If father-in-law seriously demands an apology and thinks she deserves one, they both deserve to be completely cut off from you guys. That is genuinely psychologically damaging. They could have done irreparable harm to this girl. For the rest of her life even, who knows? You don't know what the knock-on effects of that is going to be while someone is developing. What a deranged, heartless individual your stepmother-in-law is. There is no way that you're the asshole. Ducking Ridiculous says, not the asshole. She's distraught? Your child is distraught. She showed them a video of animals being slaughtered and told them a lie about their parents. What she did was manipulative, dishonest, and cruel. There's a reason why those videos have a rating. They're not meant to be viewed by children. The children will have trauma for some time. Beth says, this right here just shows that she would be an unfit parent. The dig at infertility might have been low, but what she did was far lower. She puts her agenda before the children's welfare. Children are not pawns. They will remember that video. OP's probably going to be dealing with nightmares for some time. Reddit Red Rabbit says, normally I'd say the snide remarks about infertility are out of line. End of story, but your stepmother-in-law has found the exception. OP then comes back with an update and says, though my wife and I have no intention to let her back in our children's lives, I decided to apologize to stepmother-in-law for what I said. My wife and I talked a lot about the subject. She said that based on her history with her stepmother, it really was a good thing that she didn't have children, but before we had ours, my wife had always wanted to be a mother and was terrified about the possibility of not being able to. That fear got worse around the time stepmother-in-law had the hysterectomy. My wife told me her stepmother was agonized when it happened, and even though she agreed with me, she felt it might be best to apologize. Another thing that led me to make the decision was my mother. Before my brother and I were born, my parents had a stillborn daughter. They didn't talk about her much, so I didn't even think of it at the time, but my brother brought it up a few days ago. I couldn't stop thinking about her, and as a parent, I can't even begin to imagine how my mother felt. I would never mention anything related to that out of anger, no matter how wrong my mother was. In the end, my wife and I agreed that, while I should apologize, we absolutely can't budge on cutting stepmother off. We can't forgive what she did. It took us hours to convince our daughter to eat anything, not just meat. Even after that, she refused to eat meat for a few days because she didn't want to be evil. Our son wasn't as shaken, but he still had trouble sleeping for a few nights. My wife and I sat them down and had a long conversation about it. We answered every question they had as well as we could. Thankfully, we were able to reassure both of our kids that eating meat wouldn't make them bad people. They are still a little bit distraught, but they're doing much better and eating normally again. Our main concern will always be their health and happiness. Stepmother-in-law compromised both, so we had no doubts about cutting her from our lives. We called father-in-law and stepmother-in-law this weekend. I apologized for what I said to stepmother-in-law, but we told her that we were still cutting her off. As expected, she didn't take it well. She started going off about how she was trying to help our children and we were terrible parents for depriving them of that care. I'm pretty sure she was crying. She said that it was awful that such cruel, ungrateful people could raise kids and not her, and we shouldn't allow our children to take part in something that caused so much unnecessary suffering. After about a minute of that, father-in-law managed to get stepmother-in-law to stop and hang up the phone. My wife later spoke with her father separately. Father-in-law apologized again for falling asleep. He said he understood why we were upset, but promised he would never do anything like that again. We decided to forgive him, but we won't leave the kids in his care again, and he will only be allowed to see them without his wife. We have options besides our usual babysitter. Father-in-law agreed. He invited us for a family dinner at a steakhouse that my wife loved as a kid. He hasn't been there since stepmother-in-law became a vegetarian. We are going this Friday. I definitely have my regrets, but I'm satisfied with how things turned out. More than anything, I'm glad that my children are all right. Watching my daughter refuse to eat anything was terrifying, and I'll never forgive stepmother-in-law for scaring her and her brother like that. But they are getting better every day, and I think things are going to be okay. Once again, thank you for all of your advice and support. I'll try to reply to more comments this time. Cute Profession says, showing small children horrific videos is bad enough, but lying about their parents is maybe worse. You are not the asshole for keeping this woman away from your children. Pippet says, I don't know, showing a small child an extremely graphic video of cattle being slaughtered? Only an effing psychopath would do that. I agree that lying to the parents was really bad, but showing that kind of thing to little kids, I think that's horrifying. Frankly, OP is 100% right that it's a good thing stepmother never had children, and I'm glad OP is cutting her off from any access to their kids. I think it's pretty hilarious that father-in-law is taking them out to a steak dinner to apologize. OP says, agreed, but I don't think it's out of spite. He loves the place too, and has been wanting to take the kids there for a while. His wife refuses to go there, so he never had the opportunity. We did have a family dinner there once, before stepmother-in-law became a vegetarian, but my son was too young to remember it, and my daughter wasn't born yet. Pippet replies, yeah lol, but I still appreciate the irony. And at least it sounds like he understands his wife was in the wrong. I hope y'all enjoy the dinner, and stepmother-in-law doesn't cause drama. I hope your kids are doing better. I can't imagine how awful it was for them to see that kind of video at that age. Hopefully they'll completely forget about it. OP replies, it was difficult at first, but they're doing much better now. I think we've managed to reassure them we'd never think any less of them. I was gonna say, you'd think that if you messed up this badly that you never have access to those kids again, you'd have a brain and apologize and at least put a face on to, I don't know, to put out the fire that you started? But no, stepmother-in-law doesn't think. Stepmother-in-law's brain has been rotted away by brain rot from propaganda. If she had kids of her own, she would do untold damage to them. That's just a fact at this point. And yeah, it's pretty ironic and funny they went to a steakhouse for that dinner. She's not gonna take that one well. That's rubbing salt in the wound right there. I won't lie, this story got me real pissed off, that's for sure. I'm glad that they are not giving her any contact. There is no possibility for that. She deserves the worst. Thank you for sharing your story with us, OP, and thank you for doing the right thing. But what about you guys? What did you think of this one? Was I too harsh? Was OP too harsh? Does she deserve redemption? Let me know in the comments. Let's move on to our next story. Now this one was also posted in the Am I the Arsehole Here subreddit by the user Soldier20011, titled, Am I the Arsehole Here for my wife saying I'm not good enough and now I want a divorce? Ask me anything. I'm a 23-year-old male in the military. My wife and I have been married for almost 3 years. The first year was hard. I'm used to being abused by others, so I'm a social introvert and don't really understand what's considered wrong in a relationship. I've never cheated though. You ever just read something and feel like you got punched in the chest? Oh my god. Someone help my boy. She taught me a lot about how to act in a relationship, but if I'm being honest, she abused my trust. She tricked me into not trying to have friends or playing games with attractive females. She even got me to accept her having a second partner.
Oh, no.
She made me believe that she would divorce me for him, and I provided for him and let him stay at our home. Basically, she got to cheat on me with zero consequences because I was terrified of being alone again. All I ever wanted was to get married and have children, but she stole that dream from me, telling me we would never have kids and that I had to accept it. I'm terrified of being alone again. My father died when I was 9, my mother abandoned me in North Carolina right before a hurricane, and when I managed to get back to my home state, CPS took me from her and put me in foster care. Trust and love are things that I never really got to have, so I'm desperate to feel safe and cared about, but she broke the camel's back. I'm currently on rotation, and my wife has done nothing but treat me like garbage. I just broke. When she told me that she would always need another man because I would never be enough for her, I stopped caring. I told her that if she brought up divorce again, which is her main threat to me, I would file for divorce the next day. She did threaten me again, so I granted her request for divorce. And since then, the only time I talk to her is to handle bills. She's trying to talk me out of it, but I refuse. I don't acknowledge her for anything but bills. All I can do is work, cry, and hate my entire existence. Honestly, I think about self-deleting every day. It feels like the most logical solution. My life has been hell forever, and I don't believe I'll find love, so why stick around? So am I the asshole? I understand why you feel that way, OP, but please, at least, read the comments here and acknowledge that there is reason to stick around. I believe you'll find love. I feel like you've just been abused all of your life, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And not the one to heaven. Don't be going to that one. The one where you stick around, you have a good time with us, you forget about her, and you move on from that shitty past that you have. Life ain't all sunshine and rainbows, I'll give you that one, but it doesn't have to be all doom and gloom either. There is a way forward. You're not the asshole here. She is a complete piece of shit. That's for sure. Solid Feature says, not the asshole. Go to your first sergeant or CO and tell them you need emotional counseling and JAG assistance in order to leave your emotionally and financially abusive spouse. Do exactly what the counselor and the lawyer tell you to do. This is not your fault. Your wife is a parasite who sees you as a meal ticket. Wild As says, this post really triggered me because this woman manipulated him knowing about his past and trouble with feeling abandoned. I am really brokenhearted for this young man and want to rip one into the wife for being an abusive and manipulative soul sucker. And Dr. Big Pipe says, get divorced, find someone new, but before you do that, get some help. Find out how to love yourself. Accept what happened in the past and move on. You'll stay plenty busy being in the military. Been in the military for 10 years, seen countless people go through divorce. You'll be okay and better off later in life. And OP comes back to us with an update and says, so, wow, a lot has happened. This is just the update, so if you want more context, go to the original post. I spoke to my higher-ups and spared no details. I even provided evidence. They told me that divorce is the only way forward and that I'm not responsible for paying for everything. They also informed me how much I actually have to give her. I found out the day I left that she had her affair partner moved in, which strengthened my resolve. I told her that we are 100% getting a divorce. I got her affair partner off my phone bill, and I also removed my card from her accounts. I'm moving in with a buddy that I made while out there, so I don't have to live with her at all. Once I'm divorced, I'm going to take some time to love myself and build a friend group. Then, when I'm ready, I'll start dating again. Also, I forgot to mention that in my original post, I did kick out her boyfriend and affair partner before I left, but she moved him back in once I was gone. For all those who gave me advice on my first post, thank you. For those who criticized me, thank you too. I learned a lot about myself, and I don't know if there will be another update, but I think if it is worth sharing, then I will. I love you all, thank you all for your help. Material Knight says, I'm glad your chain of command actually helped you out a little. Keep that head down and just effing cruise for a little bit. Make friends with your guys in your unit if you can, and just focus on finding yourself. I had too many of my guys getting into shit like this back in the day, and not all of them made it out. Stay down, dude. She ain't shit. Consistent Resun says, wow, I'm looking at the same situation. I feel fully lost. All I do is work, and now that may be all I have. My wife asked for an open marriage, and I immediately suspected she had a side guy and is trying to make it seem legit. I can be an asshole, and I work so much that my one day home, I'm gone Monday to Friday every week, and traveling makes most of one day off, is filled with preparations to work for the week, laundry, meal planning, etc., plus as much relaxation as possible. I dropped the ball, thought we were on the same level, but she's not happy. I'm not either, but I thought that we were working towards being happy together. I was wrong. Good luck, buddy, and thanks for sharing. OP says, don't let her trick you, brother. Stay strong and learn from my mistakes. So glad to see OP giving advice from personal life experiences. Glad to see you didn't let this one get you down, OP. I'm glad that you didn't do it, and I'm glad that you have the help that you needed so sorely in that first post. Chin up, and here's to better days. Also, what did you guys think of this story? Let me know down in the comments below. And with that said, it's time for the next one. This one was posted by user FunAlternative9808, titled, Am I the asshole for being mad at my sister because she showed a PowerPoint presentation with private sexy pictures of my husband and I at our wedding reception? This past weekend was my wedding, and it was technically my second proper wedding because my husband and I eloped and got married in Vegas. So this was an event more for the family than for us. My sister was my maid of honor, and she showed a PowerPoint presentation / pic montage during the reception, but I thought that it was just going to be cute pictures and videos of me and my husband. We've been friends since the first grade, so there's a lot of material, but instead, my sister was like, for all of those who don't know, this is my sister and husband's second wedding. Let's see how the first one went. And here's the thing, we got married in Vegas. Shit got a little weird and we took a million pictures and videos, and many of them looked super inappropriate out of context and in context. Like, we had no bachelor or bachelorette party, so the night before the wedding we went to a strip club with female strippers and to one with male strippers as a gag. So there was a pic of me glaring fake angry at my husband looking at some big ass titties, and one of my husband doing the same while looking at a dude doing the helicopter with his dick. There was a picture of us eating Domino's in a hotel room, only in our underwear. And there was a picture of us doing an impromptu, sexy cowboy-cowgirl photo shoot near the Grand Canyon. It's an inside joke, and it's too long to explain. There was a picture of me at the hotel pool wearing a seriously minuscule bikini that may as well have been invisible, and virtually my whole ass was hanging out, with my husband doing the Will Smith meme.
The one where he goes up and slaps you, that one?
There was a picture of my husband naked playing the guitar, with only the guitar covering his junk, and me fake singing next to him wearing only a long t-shirt. There was even a picture that had nothing to do with the wedding of us in costume as Cyclops and Emma Frost for a Halloween party, so it obviously looked like I'm wearing lingerie, which I was, half, and my husband's package in a tight suit is super noticeable. The presentation finished with an admittedly very nice montage of pictures and video of me and my husband in school and high school, etc., juxtaposed with more recent and appropriate pics. And it was genuinely very moving, and everyone loved that part. But I was seriously dying of embarrassment about the other pictures. I mean, my grandma was there, and both of my husband's grandparents too, and a bunch of people who were technically, but not really, close to. Our friends thought that it was hilarious though. Am I overreacting for thinking my sister crossed a line by including those pictures, which I only shared with her in confidence? To be honest, this just sounds like a prank that went way too far here. This is yet another situation where it's like, was she a moron or was she malicious? And if she's the kind of person that is an asshole and everything, my question is, why did you trust her to make the presentation? And if she's just an idiot, then I can kind of give her a little bit of a pass, being like, this was just wrong place, wrong time kind of joke. She definitely should have run this by someone and got a kind of feel for the room of the vibes of like what was cool and what was not cool to share. But regardless, there are consequences to her actions here. And if you are upset about your photos being shared that you didn't want to have been shared, that were not greenlit, then you are absolutely valid in your feelings, and I don't think that you're overreacting here. Lucky Effective 1564 says, you should have said, thank you sis for all of your hard work in making the presentation. It only goes to prove what an utterly stupid, thoughtless person you are. OP replies, I said to her something to that effect, and she started crying and called me ungrateful. The part that kills me is that the second part of the presentation, the one that didn't include the Vegas pictures, was the best thing ever. Like she somehow found a previously unearthed home video of my husband and I when we were like 8 years old, saying that we were going to marry each other when we grew up, and that made me so emotional that I felt like I was going to faint. If she had just stuck to that, it would have been absolutely perfect. OP, when called a prude by a downvoted comment, says, I mean, I don't think I'm a prude just because I don't want my grandma and random family members to look at pictures of me looking at helicoptering dicks, or me at my husband in our underwear, or semi-naked, or my ass hanging out. I suppose some people in the audience thought it was fun, but some probably found it scandalous. I don't think my sister did it to embarrass me at all. I think she just wasn't thinking. And OP comes back with an update and says, I'm going to give this little update for closure's sake, and then put this whole thing behind me. First off, I was taken aback by the amount of comments that said my sister clearly did this to humiliate me, most likely out of jealousy. Jealousy of what? My husband? She's gay and has been in a loving relationship for ages. My wedding? My mum has even offered to pay for her wedding 1,000,000 times, and my sister has always declined. She doesn't want one. My trip to Las Vegas? My sister had wilder nights every other weekend back in the day. No, I don't think this was done maliciously. She's just a moron. So, the fallout of the pictures. My mum and aunt blew up at my sister about them, telling her that some family members low-key commented that they were pretty trashy. My husband assures me that on his family side, everyone thought that it was hilarious and they are all chill about it. Only one of my elderly aunts approached me and, referring to the photo where my husband's package looks sizable in the Cyclops costume, whispered, "Congratulations," and walked away with a wink and a smile. So that was wild and unexpected, but nice. At least someone on my side of the family can see the bright side. Anyway, My sister got furious at me and my mum and called us unbelievably grateful and says this is the last time that she does anything for either of us, and right now she isn't talking to any one of us, and I don't feel like talking to her either. Things are tense with my mum too, because she's kind of blaming me, saying things like, "What were you thinking? Why would you take those kinds of pictures?" And I'm not here for that bullshit, so I'm kind of muting her too for the moment. Yeah, she can shut up, prude. Prude, mum. Oh, sorry, prude Andy. What a Debbie Downer. Out of curiosity, I called my sister's partner, let's call her Rose, who helped her edit the presentation, and asked what was my sister thinking including those pics. She said they cleared it with my husband in advance. I told him and he was like, "What? No?" He said my sister asked him if they could add some of the Vegas pictures to the presentation, but he assumed that they were the non-weird, non-inappropriate ones, like the ones of us at the strip, at the gondola thing, etc. Why would he even assume that she meant the inappropriate pictures? She's gonna try to claim some misunderstanding or something, but I don't buy it. Anyway, I know I'm going to forgive my sister eventually, and my mum will do so too. The portion with the other pictures and videos, and especially the video of 8-year-old us, seriously moved me so deeply that it's winning the battle against the full-body cringe that I'm still experiencing from the pictures. I'm going on my honeymoon this weekend, and hoping everything will be back to normal by the time I come back. OP added this in the comments. Honestly, the most mortifying part for me was wondering how his family, specifically his parents, were going to take it. But apparently even his grandparents thought that it was a hoot. So that kinda gives me a bit of peace. As for my own family, meh, it's honestly whatever. They can think I'm low class and trashy all they want. I couldn't care less. War Tonka says, I think the sister did it as a prank and genuinely thought people would find it hilarious. But when they didn't, and she rightfully was called out, she got defensive and doubled down. As bad as adding the photo was, if the sister had sincerely apologized, I'm sure this whole situation would have blown over. To be honest, her reaction is worse than the photos. Pedantic Puma says, agree. I feel like this leans more towards prank-like behavior than anything truly malicious, and I don't get jealous vibes. Seems like a sibling trying to razz the other sibling, but way overshooting the mark. Well, overshooting for the most part. Sounds like a lot of the guests found it hilarious. That's where I think you're also right about the sister's response. All could have been forgiven with an apology. And Jizeki says, hell, I think it's even a kind of, why is this a big deal? We can usually have fun like this. But like OP said, yeah, but let's not include grandma and a bunch of extended family, please. Some people just have no sense of context for whether stuff like this is appropriate or not. Yeah, and I tend to agree with that one. Wrong place, wrong time. But the mother definitely had the wrong read on this one, being like, oh, you devils, why would you even take photos like that? Oh my god, let people have some fun, mama. Don't take it that far, Jesus. Like, I get the sister was definitely coming from a place of caring and, yeah, a bit of razzmatazz, having a good time with this one, you know, stirring the pot, being a wind-up merchant. But not in front of grandma, not in front of the extended family. Poor don't gotta see that. Anyway, guys, what's your take on this one? Am I spectacularly off base? Am I correct? Let me know down below, please, God, let me know. Am I the asshole for being mad at my sister for going back on our arrangement? So back in June, my grandfather passed away. My grandmother passed away 4 years ago. On the day that my grandfather passed, my father called me, 44 female, and offered me his home as my husband, 35 male, and I are looking to move to where my immediate family lives. My husband and I discussed it, and we accepted the offer. A few days after, my sister, 42 female, called and asked if she and her husband could live in the house until we arrived. We were looking to move in about a year and a half, because they wanted to be able to live rent-free and save up for a down payment on a house. Get it in writing, get it in writing, get it in writing. And since the house would be sitting empty until we arrived, I said of course they could. Fast forward to a couple of weeks ago, my son, 2 male, and I flew out to Texas for my grandfather's memorial, and while I was there, my sister was moving things into the empty home and starting to get things situated. I was mentioning what I wanted to do with it when we eventually moved in, and my sister looked kind of annoyed. I didn't really talk more about it after that, and at one point, my father asked if they needed a couple months past when we arrived to get things finalized and moved out. Would we be okay with that? Again, I said I didn't mind. My husband and I own a home, so we know the process can be lengthy and that things can go sideways. Yesterday, my husband texted me and asked if everything was okay. I told him that while I was busy with work, all was fine, but why was he asking? He told me my sister started texting him. My sister said to him, this is verbatim, "I was just curious if you've been brought up to speed about the house out here. OP knows that my grandparents and my dad offered it to us first, and that we plan to live there for a while before we can save enough money to buy a place of our own. But while she was out here a couple of weeks ago, she really made it seem like she thinks that you guys are moving right in." When my father offered the home to me, I was not made aware that the house was offered to her first. When my husband showed me the text, I called my dad and asked if that was true. He told me yes, but that my sister had softly declined. He said that her words were, "I don't think we want to do that." So, it was offered to me. My husband then tells her that it's fine because we're a good 18 months from moving away. My sister then throws this fabulous curveball and says, "Yeah, but we're thinking around 5 years." Once my husband told me that part, I became livid. She knew that we planned to move in January 2026. She only asked to stay in the home until we arrived, and Dad asked for a couple additional months after arrival just in case, and now she's just decided that they're staying for 5 years? Admittedly, I blew up at my sister and told her that she's got some big-ass balls if she thinks she can attempt to paint this to my husband like I'm taking what's rightfully hers away from her. The bottom line, you said no, and we said yes, and now you've decided you want it after all, and that you're just going to take it for however long you want. I then told her that I will no longer be talking to her about this, and she will not text my husband about this again. She went silent, and I called my dad to fill him in on her new 5-year plan, and that because the home is in his name, we can communicate about the home through him, as I was not talking directly to her about this anymore. So, am I the asshole for being mad and blowing up at my sister about going back on the original arrangements? And honestly, I'd like to know if anyone thinks that a soft decline is enough to come back and say, "We want it after all, so we're going to take it." This is why we don't mix family with money, family with a lot of things in our lives, especially family with work. If she's going to be nasty, you're just going to have to be nasty back because it doesn't seem as though she's going to play nice about this. But really, I think your dad has to be mediator here because it's his house and he ultimately, I think, gets the final say, right? Really messy situation, and she's the one that went back on her word. I think she's an asshole for doing that, even though I can see where she's coming from. She's still in the wrong. Little Fox says, "Not the asshole, but if it's in your father's name, then he has final say. So you may be looking at being given the house, period. You really need to think about if this move is even right for your family now, because 1, you won't own, and if you don't pay rent, you have no say. 2, do you want to be associated with anyone that will side with your sister?" OP replies, "To fill in some details, 1, we wouldn't own it right away. Dad wants to make sure that we'll be good at that location because Texas is big, the home is rural, and jobs aren't always nearby. If we decided to stay in the home, he would gift it to us. Before gifting, we'd be paying him rent in the amount of the property taxes only. And 2, I would be heartbroken if Dad sided with my sister, but I don't believe that it would be enough for a no-contact situation because my sister is very manipulative, and I'm not there to defend myself against her bullshit. Her, however, I would 100% go no contact with her." Ali Redhen adds, "Would it perhaps be better for both you and your sister if your dad sold the house and gave you each half of the proceeds? Then your sister could get her home a lot faster, and you could have a chunk of money to move where you wanted, by the sounds of it, Colorado. Falling out with family over inheritance is bad all around, especially when you otherwise get along. It would stop your dad being in such an awkward position." OP replies, "Honestly, Texas was our first choice. We wanted my son to grow up around my dad and go to a good school district. This is definitely food for thought though. Thank you." B-Fan says, "I feel bad if you end up not being able to have your son grow up near your dad because of your sister's backstabbing. I don't know if your dad completely realizes that he won't be living near his grandson if your sister gets her way. Your plan B move will be nowhere near him. You might want to remind him of that. OP retorts, he was absolutely reminded yesterday during our conversation. A bit later, OP edits the post and says, I spoke with my father this morning who said he spoke with my sister. She denied saying that it would be 5 years, but it would definitely be at least a couple years. I told my father we have it in a text message of her saying that it would be 5 years. My husband sent the text conversation screenshot to my father after I relayed this to him. I made it clear that this is what she does and how she tries to twist things to her advantage. I also made it crystal clear that I feel that he needs to uphold that she declined when offered to her, and we had said yes to the offer. I explained that in reality, if this was happening outside of a family arrangement, there is no way in hell anyone else would ever give her the house. Think rental agreement type situation. I also made it clear that if he decided to let her do what she wanted, instead of honoring the agreement she made with me, then we would never come to Texas for any reason. Ooh, withholding the grandchildren is crazy. Dad was unhappy to hear that and didn't want this to tear the family apart. I told him that he needed to hold her accountable for her behavior. He said he understood and would be meeting with my sister and her husband in a week or so to discuss it in detail, and may or may not need to call me to be involved in the discussion. So that's it for now. I won't have any further updates, I think, until that time. Thank you to everyone for your support and advice. I truly appreciate you all. Opie then comes back with an update and says, I spoke to my father yesterday afternoon. He decided to compromise and asked us to hold off on moving until January 2027. We had originally planned for January 2026, so my sister could have 2 years rather than just 1 year. While I'm not happy with this decision, I'm not so stubborn as to dig my heels in. I'm always open to compromise. However, while my husband is okay with this decision, he won't be solidly behind it because he asked my father for a written agreement between the 3 parties. Us, my dad, and my sister, and her husband. It must be notarized as well. Good man, I like that. That's a good move. No response from my dad yet about the agreement in writing. Funny how quiet everyone gets when there's a written notarized agreement in the mix, huh? We're feeling like he'll not agree to that, and that is where we will draw the line in the sand. If he declines this request, then not only will we be going with our plan B, we will be going no contact with my dad and sister and her husband. So that's the update for now. Thank you to everyone who had a lot of support and kindness in my original post. All of it gave me a lot to think about. Edit to add, yup, just like y'all thought, Dad said no to the written agreement. He said he's instead going to make some changes to his will that will settle the matter for good. That said, I asked for more info, and he said he'll share with me, my 2 sisters, and our husbands once the changes are made. I smell bad tidings on the horizon. I Am Hecate says, I'm so glad you're going to stand your ground on this. I think the compromise is a bit sucky for you, but getting the notarized deal is definitely the wisest play if they want to stay longer than 2025. Are they just hoping they'll wear you out and they'll get a free house? OP retorts, honestly, yes. I think that's exactly what she would do. I plan to stick to my guns on this, though. Crafty Special says, I agree there should be a written agreement that your sister will move out after 2 years and definitely would need to be notarized. Stand firm on this. OP replies, 100%. Otherwise, they can say goodbye to me, my husband, and our son forever. I am absolutely done with being screwed over. Queen Legolas asks, your dad is screwing you over in the will, isn't he? Because that's what it's gonna be. Is your sister his favorite? OP replies, if I had to put a label on a favorite on anyone, I'd say that it's my youngest sister, who is not involved in this at all. How much money are we gonna put on the fact that the youngest sister will probably magically get majority share of this house in the will? Because that'd be crazy. That'd be the curveball that I'm looking for. The curveball to the curveball of this story. And again, it's so funny that no one wants to do written notarized wills, but everyone wants to live rent-free. The ultimatum that OP is giving in this situation is actually pretty good, in my opinion. Don't get screwed over anymore, OP. Screw him over if he's going to do that to you. But anyway, what do you guys think of this one? I'd love to know your thoughts down in the comments below. With that said, let's get to the next story.